Is it time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
We'll know in a very short period of time, but it looks like it could be something that will be not good. Believe me, not good.
I see issue with that. And again, hey.
You're not going to be able to insult your way to the presidency. That's not going to happen.
I don't know who created Pokemon Go, but I'm trying to figure out how we get them to have Pokemon go to the polls.
I'm Ted Cruz, and my pronoun is kiss my ass.
So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do to lay these wires, what we need to do to create these jobs.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to put him.
Not good. Believe me, not good.
Hello, dissidents. Welcome one and all to a Tuesday matinee edition of the Do Dissidents podcast. Keaton Weiss here with Russell Dobular, of course.
Hello.
How's it going, everybody? Pleasure to see you all here on this bright, sunny, late summer afternoon here from New York. Hope you're all feeling good. We got 477 strong in the Rumble chat to start the show, 375 in the YouTube chat to start the show for a total of 852. Great to see a nice crowd in here early. Let's hit that like button. Let's get some more people in here. Let's work that algorithm, folks. We've been out of the algorithm for a week because of our DNC coverage. So let's get those burners back cooking real hot. That's what we like to see. We do have a Patreon show tonight, members stream, supporters stream tonight at 8 p.m. So for those of you who are paid members on either Patreon, Substack, or Locals, you will get the email after this show. We do all of our supporter streams on Rumble, and we can only schedule one stream at a time on Rumble, which means you got to wait till this one's done before we can schedule tonight's stream formally. But you guys will get an email this evening between 5 and 6 p.m. With an invite to that supporter stream. That is going to be a really fun stream. We're going to go over the Gray Zone's backstage DNC footage. That's going to be a lot of fun. And then, obviously, we have the curious case of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and the decapitated whalehead. That is a mystery we are going to unravel on the Patreon show tonight. So we've got a really fun Patreon show. So if you do want to sign
my
up,
dear Keaton. Elementary.
That's right. Elementary. That's right. That's the link to sign up. Patreon.com/Do Dissidents. You can also join as a paid Substack member, DoDissidents.substack.com, or you can join our locals, DoDissidents.locals.com. And, while we're on the subject of memberships, we just decided on another perk of membership. So, Russell, do you want to talk about that for a minute?
All right. So we cleared it with our friends at Rumble to make sure it wouldn't violate their terms of service. So we pitched them a monthly movie night where we're going to do politically themed films and comment on them. And they're cool with it, man. So that is going to be another perk of membership. We're going to be doing political films from across the ages, everything from Mr. Smith Goes to Washington down to Bob Roberts, and just discussing them and getting feedback from the audience. It'll be a good hangout. We'll cook up some popcorn, crack some beers.
That's right.
And watch some of the best political films ever made.
And
maybe some of the
along.
worst. Maybe we'll do like Triumph of the Will one night.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Maybe we'll do
it's
some
a
of the worst
political
as well.
film. Yeah.
Lots of exciting stuff to get to today. So let's jump in. Right now, we opened up the last show with news of uncommitted delegates being denied a speaking role at the DNC. And that's where we're going to pick up today, because as a result of that, you had Muslim Women for Harris disbanding. So Muslim Women for Harris disbands and withdraws support for candidate. Group says Harris campaign denying a Palestinian speaker at the Democratic convention is a terrible message. On the third night of the Democratic National Convention, the group Muslim Women for Harris released a statement announcing that it was disbanding in response to the Harris-Walz campaign refusal to allow a Palestinian person to speak on the main stage. The statement was released as members of Uncommitted National Movement, which won 30 delegates to the convention, and their supporters held a sit-in outside of the convention. Ilhan Omar joined the demonstration for some time, and AOC called into the sit-in via FaceTime. That'd be fun. So you call in from inside the venue to outside the venue? I wonder where she was when she called in. That would be funny. The sit-in came in after the anti-war group was told a Palestinian person would not be allowed to speak on the main stage. Until then, whether or not such a speech would happen was up in the air. During the sit-in, Muslim Women for Harris pulled their support for the Democratic nominee. We cannot in good conscience continue Muslim Women for Harris waltz in light of this new information from the uncommitted movement that VP Harris's team declined their request to have a Palestinian speaker take the stage at the DNC, the group's statement reads. Kamala Harris's campaign notably invited the family of Israeli hostage Hirsch Goldberg Poland to speak on Wednesday, which Uncommitted supported. The group called for a similar platform for a Palestinian person. Uncommitted delegates urged the Democratic Party to reject a hierarchy of human value by ensuring Palestinian voices are heard on the main stage. We are learning that Israeli hostages' families will be speaking from the main stage. We strongly support that decision and also strongly hope that we will also be hearing from Palestinians who have endured the largest civilian death toll since 1948, the Uncommitted statement read. During the family's speech, the hostages' family speech, Goldberg Poland's father, John Poland, called for a return to of the hostages and an end to the suffering of innocent civilians in Gaza, joining other speakers like Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders, who both made reference to Israel's ongoing war in Gaza. During the course of the Democratic Convention, calls for a ceasefire have been met with raucous applause from audience members. Still, some have said the party's nods have fallen short. The family of the Israeli hostage that was on stage tonight has shown more empathy toward Palestinian Americans and Palestinians than our candidate or the DNC has, Muslim Women for Harris's statement read. This is a terrible message to send to Democrats. Palestinians have the right to speak about Palestine. Anna Zaitchik, who has multiple family members who are hostages. What's that?
Alana.
Oh, sorry, Alana. Alana Zaitchik, who has multiple family members who are hostages, spoke out in support of having a Palestinian American speak on the main stage. Quote, Rachel and John deserved every second on that stage. I also believe a Palestinian American voice deserves to be heard on that stage. Zaitchik wrote on X, I'd love to hear from Rua for Georgia, whose speech was rejected. We played that on the last show. And I hope the DNC will give her the chance to be heard. Chicago, where the DNC is being held this year, has one of the largest Palestinian communities in the U.S. Muslim Women for Harris did not immediately respond to a request for comment, but they pulled their support because of the lack of equal time. And, you know, I mentioned when we did one of our long live streams during the DNC how the Israeli hostage families were on the stage. They were okay with a Palestinian taking the stage. You know, if the Democrats really wanted to send a peace message, maybe bring them up together. Think about that. If they didn't want to give a Palestinian, God forbid, the full stage, right, where they might go off script. They weren't going to go off script. They were the speech called for an endorsement. What do you think? They wrote that to fake it? So look, Muslim Women for Harris, they bailed. That leads what? The white dudes and the white women. They're the least woke standing, as it turns out. They got yes, they were outlifted
they didn't
by the
lose
Muslim
the dude.
Women. No,
the dude is not concerned about the lives of Palestinian people. Shocker.
The dude abides.
The dude abides. He abides genocide. The dude abides genocide.
Right. Yeah. There we go.
We should put that in the merch store.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, this really demonstrates the absolute stranglehold that AIPAC has, not just on the Democrats, on both parties. They are terrified of doing anything that is going to get them a phone call from the ADL and from AIPAC. They know the merest gesture, the merest nod towards the humanity and the rights and the dignity of the Palestinian people is going to get them pressure from AIPAC. And AIPAC is apolitical. They're not Democrats. I mean, they're apolitical within our context, within our political system. They don't give a
Nonpartisan,
shit.
bipartisan.
Yeah, they'll flip to Trump in a heartbeat. So yeah, that's they are not really, as we have seen since October 7th. It's really the tail wagging the dog. Who is whose client here?
Right. Yeah. And good on them for withdrawing their support. They reacted the only way anyone of any dignity or self-worth could. Whereas, after being disrespected in that way, you have to withdraw support because you know what? AIPAC has a responsibility to their donors and their handlers not to show any humanity to the Palestinian people. Well, so does Muslim Women for Harris. Like if you're organizing, this is what we keep saying over and over again. If you're organizing, there have to be certain red lines. There have to be certain boundaries. It doesn't mean you need uniformity of opinion within those boundaries. It means that you stay within those boundaries. Okay, if you cross over to endorsing pro-genocide candidates like Donald Trump or Kamala Harris, then there's no point in having this organization. At this point, the organization stands for nothing, right? Doesn't mean you need full ideological agreement within the boundaries, but you do need firm boundaries. And so they had one, and apparently that insult was too much for them. And so they pulled their endorsement. And, look, this is an election that is looking very, very, very close. This could be closer than 2020. It could be closer than 2016. It really is looking like Georgia, Arizona, Pennsylvania, with that wild card, Michigan. Those are the four states that are really going to swing this. And, when you have a population in Michigan that was ready to abandon Biden, and then half of them blinked and changed to uncommitted, now you have them turning their back again. It's a very dangerous game. I think there is perhaps some overconfidence now in the Kamala Harris camp that they can just do without those Muslim voters, and that is not the case. As much as Kamala has had the lion's share of good press over the past 30 days, that momentum wave that she caught brought this to a 50-50 race. It didn't make her the odds-on favorite. It brought it to a coin toss, but it's still a coin toss. And in a close race, you need every vote you can get, and this is a major slap in the face to a specific cohort of people with an outsized presence in easily the top 5 and most important swing states. Probably number 4, if I had to say. So, yeah, I mean, that is taking a huge chance unnecessarily. There is no way that the uncommitted were going to go up there and go off script and say anything that would cost Kamala votes. What they may have said was something that would cost Democrats some AIPAC money, and that seems to be what they prioritized. Some
AIPAC money, some AIPAC support, as they always do, with some justification, frankly. They figure, the Cenk kind of people are going to come home to them anyway. Right. And convince themselves that there's some secret agenda or justify voting for them that way. And in the end, they'll go for the school lunch. And honestly, you see that on both sides. Some of the comments on your passionate argument against RFK, flipping to Trump because of RFK. Some people were saying, hey, you got people who can't eat, they can't afford anything, and whether you believe Trump is going to solve that or not, they're making the case. Yeah, hell yeah, I got to vote on that. It's not like there's an anti-genocide vote. Right. And on the Democrat side, this is the case a lot of them are making, although Democrats are not comfortable with that kind of cruel calculus regarding Palestine. So they tell themselves, no, she's got something up her sleeve. You just wait. She's just saying this now. You just wait, which, to be fair, the Trump people say that too. No, once he gets in there, you're going to see. He was already in there. Unlike Kamala, he was actually already in there. Right. We've already seen that, no, that's really what he believes. That's really what he's going to do in regards to that issue. But they're also worried in terms of voters. Hey, they're worried about the Juliana Margulises going over to the Republicans. Man, they'll do it. They'll do it.
Oh, yeah,
If they feel like the Republicans are really going to support Israel and the Democrats are wavering, they'll go Republican in a heartbeat. All the gay rights, all the black lives, they don't give a fuck about that. In the end, Israel, Israel, Israel. For Zionists, that is the moral cause. Everything else takes a back seat.
That's right. That is correct. And I would have put the Good Point Charles sound drop in there because a lovely fan made us one. And you did a good job, except the volume's too low. So I will have to raise the volume and put it on for next time. But thank you for that, to who sent us that sound drop. It would have been called for in that moment, for sure. Let's take some Rumble rants and super chats. Ken Texican, thanks for the $5 in the jungle for a minute. Thank you, Ken Texican. Appreciate that. Was that the second one you read? Was there one that came before? That's the first one that I saw. All right. Cool. Thank you, Ken Texican. Can the Strike, my favorite show. Thank you, Can the Strike. Appreciate that very much. Let's see here. Mark Dansky, thanks for the $5. Watch Mephisto by Istvan Sabo with Klaus Maria Brandauer. It's about the artistic director of the Prussian State Theater when the Nazis took power. Best foreign film Oscar.
Oh, that
yeah.
Oh, that sounds really interesting.
That does sound like an interesting one. Thank you for that recommendation, Mark Dansky. Appreciate that. Over on YouTube, we got some super chats coming in. JM, thank you for the $2 and the thumbs up. Appreciate that. Let's see here. Ronald Hay for $10 said, Russ, did you hear they were spraying for mosquitoes last night in Harlem? I found out by accident. Called 311. They are supposed to inform us. Spraying for mosquitoes where? Just in the air? Just going around with aerosol cans, spraying for bugs?
Okay, having just gotten back from Chicago, I literally did not leave my house yesterday.
Oh, there you go.
I never left this apartment.
Dan, thanks for the $1.99. I'm voting Dob Weiss. There you go. Thanks, Dan. Mark Pugliese, thanks for the $5. Isn't selecting someone on the basis of race or gender just as stupid as hating them for the same reason? Good point, Mark Pugliese.
Well, yes. There's at MIT, on that score, MIT is the first of the post Supreme Court affirmative action decision. It's the first of the Ivies to release their numbers.
Right.
And there's a meltdown on MSNBC and adjacent commentators right now because, as you would expect, whites stayed about the same. Asian, I think, gained 7%, not quite as much as you might have expected. And black admissions dropped 10% from 15 to 5%.
From MIT?
At MIT in the incoming graduating class. Because they're they're no longer allowed to consider race in admissions at all. So it's pure, I suppose, academic record and extracurriculars that they're going on.
Oh, interesting. I had not heard about that. All right. Let's move on to story number 2. Okay, so here is a post DNC conversation with AOC. This guy, Shai Ose, I hope I said his name right, says, I caught up with AOC at the DNC to talk about the elephant in the room, Gaza. Okay, so we're going to now hear this rationalization from AOC for supporting the Democratic ticket.
Official platform, in my opinion, is good on Palestine. I don't think either party right now is doing justice to Palestinians. That doesn't mean that they're the same. I think that a Donald Trump presidency would be absolutely catastrophic. I mean, he's coming out here saying finish the job of a genocide.
There's a lot of people with our politics that are having a hard time getting there in terms of supporting Kamala Harris. How do you think we help them get there in November to beat Trump?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think, first of all, it's important to emphasize how valid it is. We're looking at over 40,000 Palestinians that have died under Israeli bombardment, and the current U.S. administration has been continued to provide weapons to Israel that have been dropping on innocent Gazans. To me, when I process this, I weigh through all of the people living under extreme levels of oppression, especially outside of places even like New York. I think about the women that are bleeding out in ER rooms because they live in red states. I think about trans kids that are living in places where their entire families are trying to figure out if they need to pack up their entire lives and move somewhere else. We have to hold all of those things at once. And so to me, the conclusion that I've come to is having more people suffer to put on top of the already horrific suffering that's going on in Gaza is not something that I think I'm comfortable with.
Okay, so, those extreme levels of oppression, like living in Gaza, Arkansas.
Yeah.
About even.
No,
About
totally.
Even, right?
Yeah, not being allowed to perform experimental medical treatments on your child who may very well be autistic based on the research. No, let's put them on puberty blockers let's sterilize trans kids. That is really a priority for us as a nation. In terms of abortion, well, you have women giving birth without anesthesia, who are having C-sections in Palestine without anesthesia. You have people who, after giving birth, as we saw that particularly horrific incident, their children, they come home to find their children dead. The mother's dead. The in-law's dead. What the fuck are you even talking about? What? Just that was an unbelievable statement. But you know what? It was a very frank and honest one. I don't think you could find a better distillation of the universe that shit libs live in than that formulation. Yeah,
Hey, to be fair, it's not just shit libs, it's everybody. And most people. Yeah.
Sure. But this is their particular thing. Abortion and trans kids. Which listen, you get every now and then people will say the conservatives are the ones who are pushing the trans thing. No, they're not. That's mutual. That's mutual. There are a lot of people out there who have a vested interest in ginning up this fringe issue in order to obscure a meaningful agenda. And you could not see a more raw form of that than her bringing up this, yes, by the numbers, extremely fringe issue to justify voting for a genocidal party.
Right. Exactly. And this speaks to what we were talking about a little bit in the last episode, because, this kind of rationalization, well, yeah, they're both terrible on Israel, but hey, I like the Democrats on issue Y. I like the Democrats on issue Z. So if it's a wash on issue A, assuming Gaza is issue A, which it isn't for most Americans, but a lot of people in this space place that up towards the top. Hey, assuming that they're both bad on issue A, I'm going to vote for a Democrat or a Republican based on issue X, Y, or Z. And so a lot of our audience, I would wager that a large percentage of our audience, are very angered when they see a clip like that, when they see AOC rationalize a vote for Kamala Harris based on abortion rights, right? Or based on the trans issue. Right. I imagine most of you, that really makes your blood boil. Mm-hmm. Well, on the flip side of this, because we saw, not many people actually, not even close to half, but, a decent number of people in the comment section on the last live stream and on the RFK take, which we put out as a clip this morning, say, hey, I acknowledge they're both horrible on Israel, but I do believe we need healthier school lunches. I do believe we need to reform the FDA. And, like I said, whatever you think about the actual likelihood of that happening under Trump with RFK in his ear, question for a different time. We already kind of got into that last time. But if you are going to rationalize a vote for Trump based on the possibility of healthier school lunches, you're really just the flip side of what AOC is doing here. You are not different in kind,
of course,
from these liberals. You just disagree with them. Which, hey, look, to be fair, most people think like that. Most people do not think the way we do. Most people are duopoly voters. Every 4 years, they say, okay, option A, Option B, I'm not crazy about either one. Maybe I even dislike both candidates, as was the case with, Biden and Trump, Hillary versus Trump, both with favorability ratings well under 50. Hey, we don't like either, but candidate B is significantly worse on issues I care about than candidate A, and so I'm voting for candidate A. Like, if that's your rationalization, that can be your rationalization. That just makes you a normal person. Like, it's not particularly out of bounds to think that way. Most voters do. I don't. I think I could speak for Russell when Russell no longer does. And so I don't make that accommodation for either side. I think that, to me, is what solidarity is. You're saying this is the priority, and we are holding the line. We're not crossing the picket line, basically, and voting for a candidate who's, better on abortion or better on, school lunches, right? Better on fluoride in the water. Like, to me, for me, and this is subjective.
Fluoride
as I
is
fully
purifying
admit.
our natural
Right.
bodily fluids.
Yeah, exactly. This is subjective, as I fully admit. I fully admitted that last time and fully admitted it this time. For me, I have to hold the line on that issue, and that means supporting no one. And so I think it's important to make the point when you see something like that and you get really angry, I think it's important to hold yourself to the same standard no matter which side of this you may fall on. That doesn't mean you don't have a lesser evil option in your head in a hypothetical gun to my head situation. I had to pick one. But what AOC is doing here is a flip side of a lot of what, people in the comments are doing. A lot of people on X, what you have Eric Weinstein say, well, now I might vote for Trump because I think my values are going to be represented in the White House because RFK has his ear. Now, the Weinsteins are full-blown Zionists, so this issue doesn't bother them as much. But it's that
people
approach.
have told me Brett has kind of stayed out of that conversation.
Okay.
Because I brought him up. I don't know. I've been told. I've been told it's really Eric who's pushing the Zionism.
One of them. Did I say Brett? Didn't mean Eric? I don't know. I forget which one.
Well,
One of the Weinsteins.
you said both of them, and some people have told me it's not really him. But what?
Well, I apologize if I got the wrong Weinstein. At least I didn't call either of them Harvey. That would have been bad. That would have been very bad.
I had enough people give me pushback on that I'm inclined to believe he's just kind of tried not to get into it.
All right.
But I don't know that for sure. I never actually did the research. What you really see there also is the way that the Democratic Party has been so transformed into the Bush era Republican Party that when she justifies voting Democrat in the face of genocide, she does not talk about economics. She talks only about culture. I saw a liberal meme that was going around saying, you know what? Your America that you're nostalgic for, that was in America that discriminated against black people. That was in America, all identitarian things. And okay, fair enough, although I would argue, given that the incarceration rate of black people has gone up 1,600% since the passage of Biden's crime bill, it's not such a cut and dry thing that things are so much better now for that community than they were in the past. In some ways, yes, and in other ways, no. But that aside, it is the result of people being conditioned to only think in those terms that you would never see a Democrat say, I don't want to go back to the days of child labor. I don't want to go back to pre-union. That's not the past they think about. They don't think about gains for the working class. They only think in identitarian terms. That is how they have been trained and conditioned, because that is the only level on which politics is discussed in the media, whose job it is to propagandize them.
Yeah. And in this case, I mean, she's trying to compare the oppression. So I guess maybe, Tim Walz's free school lunches and legalized marijuana doesn't quite do it. She's trying to paint this picture of brutal oppression being, if not comparable, at least worthy of mention.
Oppressive. Poverty is always Poverty is always oppressive, but they're not even bothering to bring up the minimum wage.
Of course.
You got the parliamentarian guarding the bridge.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You shall not pass.
Yeah.
How you gonna get that? How you gonna get? So they're not even talking about that. They're not even talking about Medicare for all. They're not even really offering anything.
No, No, but what she's trying to do there is she's trying to say, well, they're both bad on this one issue, so we have to look far downstream of that and minimize oppression where we can. And look, she's an elected Democrat. This is what she is going to do. The point I want to make for this segment is that, if you get sucked back into the duopoly, it will be on those terms. It'll be on those terms in this context, because on the real macro issues here, they are equally horrible. They are equally horrible. And so if you get lured back in, you're going to sound like that.
It's going to be on the margins.
Like that.
Yeah.
Right. It's going to be on the margins. Right. Which, hey, again, that doesn't make you a bad person. It makes you a normal person. Makes you the average person. I mean, right? I mean, that's how most people vote, right? But that is what's going on. So I feel like, look, like if we're gonna give Crystal Ball a hard time for withdrawing support from Biden and then getting sucked back into Kamala, well then look, if some of you guys in the comment section and things like that and on X and stuff, like if you're gonna get drawn back in, that's fine. But then you have to debate those people, the Crystals, the Kyles, the Jenks, as your counterparts, right? Because what you're doing is you're just taking the opposite position. It's like the Bob Dylan lyric. We really did feel the same. We just saw it from a different point of view, right? You are the same in nature. You're approaching the election the same way. You have a different opinion on which shitty candidate to vote for. So if you want to do that, again, that's fine. But that's what you're doing, and that's not what I'm doing. So just want to make sure that we kind of understand each other on that, because when I saw that, that is the flip side of saying, well, hey, if RFK is now backing Trump, maybe I'll get some of what I want out of Trump. Right. Yeah, exactly. Sawyer, I can't now.
That's
go ahead.
Cameo.
You got to close the door, bud. All right. Say, Sawyer, come back here and close the door. No, he can't hear me. All right. Okay. All right. We will
vote Trump.
Move on here.
For the kids.
Yeah, exactly. For the kids. All right. Let's copy this here. All righty. Let's take some Rumble rants and super chats. AOC. Eric Rousseau says, AOC, there's the micro, the genocide in Gaza, then there's the macro, my media presence and owning Trump. Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, to a lot of Democrats, that is it. And to a lot of voters, that's it. That's it, too. I mean, a lot of voters see it that way. In fact, statistically, that is how a lot of voters see it. James Carville wasn't wrong when he said Gaza places about 15th on the list of priorities when they take an average of polls. Yeah, that is about right. Seems like AOC is developing a slight cackle, most likely to become chronic. Yeah, there you go. Indeed. Okay, what do we got here? Glenn DeVries, thanks for the $5. Whalehead, I thought Trump gave RFK Jr. a dead bear for his endorsement. Yesterday's news tomorrow, only on Due Dissidents, only trusted name in news. Thank you, Glenn DeVries. Yes, that was a popular line. We might end up putting that on some merch. We're working on getting a different merch vendor so we can get a better merch shop going. That is on the list of to-dos. Sub to Substack says B for $1.99. Thank you. Sitting with the cool kids now. You are sitting with the cool kids, B. Thank you very much for that. And thanks for the $1.99. Richard, thanks for the $1.99. I vote for Judas and the Black Messiah. Yeah, that's a great film. That's a great film.
Yeah, that's a good
2021, one. Indeed.
A few people mentioned Bulworth. I love that movie.
Bulworth was great too. Yes, absolutely. Mr. Fancy Pants, thanks for the $9.99. Been trying to buy a mug and shirt from your merch site, but I'm getting an error message. I know it's not working properly. That's why we're going to change it. A lot of people have been getting those. I am aware of that. That's why we're going to try to change vendors. Is there something wrong with it?
We're also going to do a redesign.
Yeah. I don't know. I think there's something wrong with that vendor. It's just not a reliable thing, which I don't know why YouTube links to vendors that are that unreliable. I mean, come on. But no, it's not you. It's not you. It is the service, which is why we're working on a fix for that sooner than later. Derek P, thanks for the $10. When people ask me if I'm voting, I use the Doug Stanhope line. I remember when I used to care and nothing changed. I'm adding Keaton's line in my repertoire. I'm not doing the lesser of two evils anymore. All right. Well, I appreciate you attributing that to me. I don't think I'm the first one to take that position. In fact, I'm probably one of the later ones in the grand scheme of things. But yes, I appreciate that very much. Okay. All right. Why don't we move on here? Let's see. What do we got going on over in our sidebar here? Okay. Beautiful. All right. So Donald Trump racked up yet another endorsement from a non-traditional Republican, shall we say. Here's Tulsi Gabbard taking the stage and making her endorsement official for 2024.
Trump understands the grave responsibility that a president and commander-in-chief bears for every single one of our lives. Whether you're a soldier, you're an airman, a Marine, sailor, or a coastie, he keeps us in his heart in the decisions that he makes. We saw this through his first term in the presidency, when he not only didn't start any new wars, he took action to de-escalate and prevent wars. He exercised the courage that we expect from our commander-in-chief in exhausting all measures of diplomacy, having the courage to meet with adversaries, dictators, allies, and partners alike in the pursuit of peace, seeing war as a last resort. The truth is, as we head towards our decision as a country in November, the same cannot be said about Kamala Harris. In fact, the opposite is true, and we're living through this reality today as this administration has us facing multiple wars on multiple fronts and regions around the world, and closer to the brink of nuclear war than we ever have been before. This is one of the main reasons why I'm committed to doing all that I can to send President Trump back to the White House, where he can once again serve us as our commander-in-chief.
All right, so she goes on for a little more. We don't have to listen to all of that. Free Palestine, of course. Tulsi is yet another one whose, anti-war politics seems to end at around the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. Yep. But this is a case study. I mean, just overall, Tulsi is really a case study, not just of the Democrats' charm offensive, but in sort of profiling how people outside the lines of what is permitted in terms of red team versus blue team get treated. And I'll let you know what I mean by that shortly. But let's just take a quick look back in time. Look at how much younger, without that Cruella de Vil white strip in her hair. There she is, March 29th.
She was in a whole different category of porn back then.
Right, exactly, yes. Yeah, a whole different search tab. March 29th, 2016, this was when she quit the DNC to endorse Bernie Sanders.
Sacrifices of our lives and sacrifices of our nation's sons and daughters, our mothers and fathers that we send off to war. Bernie Sanders voted against the war in Iraq. He's been a strong champion for veterans in the Senate, ensuring that our veterans receive the care and benefits that they were promised and that they've earned. Senator Sanders led the bipartisan effort to pass the most comprehensive veterans legislation in decades, a landmark bill that guarantees.
So she was not just a Democrat. She was potentially a rising star. I mean, she's the complete package, right? Yep. Woman of color, veteran. She was part of the DNC. She actually worked at the DNC.
Veteran.
Yeah. Actually worked at the DNC. So she was part of their bench. I mean, she was someone who the Democratic establishment was pretty excited about. And that's when it started to all fall apart to the point where a few years later, obviously, we all remember this great piece of sound here. This is when she was running in the 2020 primary, and Hillary Clinton famously smeared her as a potential third-party candidate being groomed by the Russians.
Pushes her own Russia conspiracy theory. In a recent podcast, Clinton says Russians are grooming a 2020 presidential contender. That candidate is Tulsi Gabbard. Here's Hillary Clinton.
I'm not making any predictions, but I think they've got their eye on somebody who's currently in the Democratic primary and are grooming her to be the third-party candidate. She's the favorite of the Russians. They have a bunch of sites and bots and other ways of supporting her so far. And that's assuming Jill Stein will give it up, which she might not, because she's also a Russian asset.
Okay, now turns out all of those predictions were totally wrong. And it's funny because now you have, some people on X are looking back at that and saying Hillary was right all along. Well, first, what the fuck are you talking about? First of all, Jill Stein.
She never ran as a third-party candidate.
She never ran as a third-party candidate.
She's not running third-party now.
She never ran as a third-party that year.
She was endorsing the Republican nominee.
And second, in 2020, Jill Stein did not run. They nominated Howie Hawkins that year. So Jill Stein did stand down, and she did not run as a third-party candidate. That doesn't matter. She was right all along because it's just a sideways across the bow smear. So that was in 2019.
Well, and hey, just briefly, since you're touching on this, these are the norms and guardrails, people, right? So they're always saying, but her emails, she literally destroyed evidence under subpoena. I hate to tell you this, folks, but that is by definition against the law.
Right.
If you or I did it, we would go to jail. We'd be prosecuted. Whatever you think about the gravity of what was in those emails, she literally destroyed subpoenaed evidence. Literally.
Yes.
But if Trump had done that, oh my God, look at him. God knows what he was probably colluding with the Russians in those emails. Not to mention, you can all this shit about Russia. It's New York Times reporting, liberal rag in good standing. You can go look up the relationship of the Clintons and Russia in regards to uranium mines. If you put in those keywords or variations, I'm sure you'll get that article. It was very widely read. Or barring that,
yes,
you can pick up Clinton Cash, which gets into the same matters.
Yes, no, that was very widely read. That got out there far and wide. So yeah, none of those predictions ended up being true, but Tulsi sealed her fate with the Democratic Party in 2016 when she quit the DNC. Then she ran against Bernie. She wasn't even running with Bernie, and they tried to smear her as a potential third-party candidate. So that, of course, led to her Dem exit in 2022. This was right before we first learned of Jose Vega because he cited this Dem exit piece in his first viral intervention against AOC. And that leads us to where we are now. That leads us to Tulsi Gabbard endorsing Trump. And so, look, with Tulsi, there is something about her that is just particularly sleazy because of the total about face on domestic policy. Like, look, if you were going to make the case, again, gun to your head, Trump is just more sort of by his nature averse to war, and so that is the anti-war vote. All right, I mean, you could get there in your brain, but Tulsi has gone from being a Bernie-style Democrat supporting Medicare for all to, recently calling, Build Back Better, an example of cradle-to-grave nanny statism. Which, I mean, come on. At that point, you're just selling books, right?
Sure,
At that point, like, you are a snake. You're the grifter that everybody warned that you were. But the reason I show you that timeline from DNC, future star within the Democratic Party to Bernie surrogates to Russian agent, according to Hillary Clinton, to Dem exiting to now endorsing Trump, it brought to mind something that we got into with Omali Yeshitela on the interview yesterday. We're going to play a clip of that interview as our next segment. But we asked him a really interesting question about Trump's relationship to the deep state, because one thing that the MAGA movement has in common with the African People's Socialist Party is they've both been Russiagated. And so I said, you're now facing trial on Russiagate charges. They Russiagated Trump. There's a ongoing debate about Trump's relationship to the permanent state and why they are so intent at smearing him as this other mainly Russian for the first, 5 years. Why is that? And he gave a really interesting answer that I interpreted as, okay, the question, why does the deep state have such a hard-on for Trump? The answer all along is really they don't have a hard-on for Trump because he's Trump. They have a hard-on for Trump because he won. He made it into their living room and pissed on their rug. But anyone who tries to do that, they react the same way to. They did it to Bernie Sanders, saying his campaign was infiltrated by Russia. They did it to Tulsi Gabbard, right? On CNN, she goes on, she's being groomed by Russians to run as a third party, right? Like anyone who's out of bounds is smeared as the other. And what is the other in post-Cold War,
You're a foreign agent.
end of history, Western Hemisphere politics? It's Russian. You're Eastern, right? You are on the other team categorically. And so that's kind of an insight there. Like the course that they set her on is a course that they set Trump on, not because he's Trump, but just because he's not within the Mitt Romney, Barack Obama, Overton window. Neither is Tulsi, neither is Bernie, neither is Trump. So that's the answer right there. It really has nothing to do with who Trump is. It's a matter. It has more to do with where he got. If Tulsi caught fire and became president, they do the exact same thing to her. Bernie, they do the exact same thing to him.
Yeah, Tulsi is another example of something we've pointed out with some other figures who started out basically left of the Democratic Party establishment, who ultimately got pushed into conservative politics because they were so viciously attacked by the Democrats, that was where they had to go for protection. And ultimately, once you're living in somebody's house, you're going to start to adopt their ways. You're going to start to adopt their viewpoints. With Kennedy, look, he had heterodox views before, but he still saw himself as a Democrat.
Right.
And in a few short months, because of their lawfare, because of their anti-democratic practices, you've got him and their absolute unwillingness to listen to any of the points that he's raising. And we're not RFK stands by any means. We read his book. We critiqued some of it. We agreed with other things. And that's my point. There are things in there that are valuable and worthwhile. They won't listen to those either. They won't listen to any of it. It's gotten to the point that if you were going to be anti-establishment, and you don't want to be completely ruined, you kind of have to go over there for protection. For protection, especially if you're a public figure. Who else is going to be there for you? And over time, once they get pushed over there, they start to adopt the views of more right-wing people, even on the economics, because these are your friends and your protectors and your patrons now, who are protecting you from the people who tried to destroy your life.
Exactly. And that is a huge part of what happened to Tulsi Gabbard. Now, without making too many excuses for her, she clearly has some, because look, even before she ran as this progressive with like an A rating on LGBT issues, that was the thing. They always tried to smear her because of her Hindu, nationalist upbringing. They always tried to smear her as some arch conservative on social issues, which she was not. Like I said, she had almost a perfect rating from LGBT groups and things like that on these social issues. So I don't think that that upbringing really affected her too much long term in terms of that issue set. Although now, like you said, because she's run into the arms of the right, who the fuck knows? But on a deeper level, certainly she's got a hang up about Muslims and Arabs, because even through all of this anti-war discourse that she traffics in, she is still hardcore pro-Israel. And that just makes no sense in any other context but to think, that Hindu nationalism she was raised with, maybe some of it rubbed off on her, but some of it didn't. Because that's the only way to explain this shit.
And this is something I think a lot of us were never aware of, that a kind of Zionism in Indian, specifically Hindu Indian society, is pretty common for obvious reasons.
Yeah. Well, we have our friend Sammy, who calls in.
We do, right
Yeah.
there.
Hindu
Yep.
Zionist and supporter of the show for whatever reason.
Yeah,
We love you, Sammy. We appreciate
when
it.
when I was in India, a group of Muslim men had been thrown off a train to their deaths because it was believed by the mob that threw them off that they were carrying beef with them, and they were not. They were not, but they were murdered. Like crazy shit like that goes down over there that we don't really hear about.
Yeah, that is a crazy story. That is a crazy story. But now, you know, she is added now to the list of former Democrats for Trump. They did mention that they're going to be rolling out a list of former Democrat, actors, not necessarily all elected politicians like Tulsi Gabbard, but, RFK and the like. They're going to have a string of former Democrats come out and endorse Trump over the next week or two, leading into what may be the debate schedule. Now, Trump is blinking about that, but you could tell they're trying to pivot a little bit back towards a more populist issue set, a bit of a more populist message in the closing stretch of the campaign, which is obviously smart on their part. You'd much rather have RFK on the stump trail for you and someone like Tulsi on the stump trail for you than just sending Trump out there with a banner of Kamala Harris pretending she's an Indian or saying she's Indian over the top of the stage. They needed some sort of change in direction. And look, I mean, on balance, she is a plus for him. But I think her arc, that is a perfect example of driving an ally into the arms of your adversary. And they did it over the course of 8 years. It was pretty obvious where she would end up.
They did that with Elon.
Now it's official with Elon too.
Elon was a Silicon Valley lib. The guy owned an electric car company.
That's right. That's the big three. I almost, Elon now, I don't even think of him as a former Democrat, but he is. So that's the big three now is Elon, RFK, Tulsi. Yeah.
And Tulsi, I will just say, because I watched her speech, the full speech. Yeah, Trump made a big mistake not naming her VP. It would have undercut some of the white guys as far as the eye can see. That they don't even have to say it. I mean, it's just inherent in the ticket that he put together.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think in retrospect, you're right. I think the Vance pick made sense at the time because he was hot. He was hot, and it's a pick that if you're winning and you want to just tack
you
on
never want to
point,
get overconfident like that.
Well, I think it's also a function of it's overconfident in the sense that they kind of assumed that the trajectory of the race was already locked, and in that context,
why assume that this guy could have dropped dead any second?
Well, that's the thing.
Even without the coup.
That's what didn't make sense about it. If you're winning, if you're up, and J.D. Vance can barnstorm Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and pad your lead by a point just to make sure you don't lose those states, all right, that makes sense in that context. But it doesn't account for a wild card like this, where now you're completely thrown off message, and you're stuck with this, you're stuck with this weird guy, so to speak, who doesn't really bring anything to the ticket beyond, a sort of tack-on run, in baseball game they'd call it a tack-on run. You're already up 7-4. He can get you to 8-4 just to lock it down. That's the kind of pick that J.D. Vance was, and that turns out to be probably not what you'd be looking for in the context of a nail biter. In the context of a nail biter, you want someone who appeals to that middle, and Tulsi does. RFK does. All right, that's why it makes sense. I mean, if you're Trump, obviously you take the endorsement. That's more where you want to be right now as the Trump campaign than going around with J.D. Vance talking about how Kamala is an idiot, not black, and, mocking childless women.
Yeah, I don't think Vance even brings that relative to Tulsi. I don't think he adds one thing that Tulsi would not have. And in spite of what people think, Republicans love opportunities to demonstrate that they're not really bigots. That it's ideological, that it's not racial, that it's not sexist. You give them an opportunity to line up a brown woman that they like for the presidency, who's a military woman, who's a veteran, they would jump at that.
Well, that's why MAGA loved Vivek Ramaswamy. They love that guy. Yeah.
They would have loved that. There's not one person who likes J.D. Vance who would not have loved having Tulsi on that ticket.
Right. Yep. Agreed. All right, folks. Let's take a quick game break to learn about 1775 coffee. Why don't we do that right now? Do you enjoy the free speech that Rumble is protecting and fighting for? Well, our show on Rumble is only possible thanks to our viewers and their support for Rumble's platform. And you can support Rumble's platform by purchasing some Rumble products. So most people drink coffee every day. That's why you have to try Rumble's 1775 coffee. It's actually a great cup of coffee that comes in several different varieties, and it's the same price as the coffee you buy now, but it's way better, of course, much better. It's a beautiful cup of coffee. Rumble's 1775 coffee is free from chemicals, yet rich in flavor. This is because their beans are sourced from high-altitude farms in Bolivia, handpicked, roasted weekly at their facility in Miami, and delivered fresh to your doorstep. And as believers in freedom, buying from Rumble helps fight back against the woke corporations like Starbucks and Dunkin' Donuts.
Not
we all
a
know.
single bean from Venezuela.
That's right. Well, Starbucks obviously is the pro-genocide coffee corporation, and Dunkin' obviously is censorious, as we all know from the advertiser scandal. So join the coffee revolution and brew rebellion. I like that. Brew rebellion with Rumble 1775 coffee. So go to 1775coffee.com and use code STUDIO and get a free month supply of their cognitive boosting supplement, Limitless, when you buy 2 bags of their coffee. All right, so you get a supplement with the coffee. I wonder if you could put that in the coffee.
Supplement?
Yeah, right. Think about it. So that's a crazy deal. So you get 2 bags of coffee plus the supplement as an add-on. Enter code STUDIO. So go to 1775coffee.com and try Rumble's amazing coffee. So 1775coffee.com, coupon code STUDIO. All right, there we go. All right, that was a longer read than usual. That was more words than I thought were there. A lot of words there. The big words on that coffee ad. I didn't realize that. I didn't see that coming.
Well, I think that's backed up from the Hollywood screenwriter strike. A lot of them were hiring themselves out for ad copy.
Yeah, there you go.
That was their Gone with the Wind.
Yeah, that was an epic. Ad read. Kenman G says trans surgeries are safe and effective. That said, thanks for your criticism, Rush. Just looking out for your channel. Thank you. Abiding 71. There isn't a worse precedent, than rewarding a genocide with a vote. I agree, Abiding. Thank you very much for that. Let's see here. Kenman's rule for voting: if you do not unequivocally support BDS, you are useless as a candidate. We could have avoided wasting time with Bernie and AOC if the rule was followed. Thank you, Kenman. Eric Rousseau: Trump adds a Kennedy to the team and hopes he will draw all the sniper fire. Yeah, there we go. The decoy. You're the decoy. Hey, Bobby, stand over there. Do me a favor. Stand over there when I'm on the stage. Don't go backstage. Stay up here. Bobby, where you going?
Just don't let him drive over any bridges.
Yeah, exactly. Don't let him drive at all. Perhaps Trump's near-death sniper experience opened him up to the merits of decentralization. Thank you, Bonzo Beans. Hillary Clinton, such a complete scumbag douchebag. Thanks, Eric Rousseau. Appreciate that very much. Let's see what we got here. What we got over on YouTube? We got Brent Yoendo. Thanks for the $2. I don't like you guys at all. Psych, love you guys. Thank you, Brent Yoendo. Appreciate that. Ronald Hay.
Our self-hatred is quite enough. We don't need any from you.
That's true. Good point, Charles. Ronald Hay for $20. NYC flies helicopters to spray for mosquitoes and runs a story on the news. Most people don't get the message. Our council people are supposed to inform us, as per 311. I called and was told they put a message in their window. Okay. So, Ronald, did you send us? Okay, so it was the same person who sent us both of those. I was going to say, did multiple people notice that? Ronald, I don't know if you live in Harlem, but yeah, I mean, if they're spraying stuff in the air, you'd think they'd give you a heads up. Regular guy, thanks for the $9.99, regular guy. I'm post-duopoly since June of 1992. DNC rigged that primary to ensure Clinton won. Jerry Brown's surge undermined by shenanigans, especially in New York primary, more similar to 16 than 20. Take a look. Yeah, I have not looked into that. I have not researched that primary all that often. I know there's that famous debate moment between him and Jerry Brown, right? Where Jerry Brown said something about his wife and Bill Clinton had that big sort of like clapback moment. I don't know. You were an adult at the time, Russell. Do you remember that?
I don't freaking remember.
Yeah, that clip goes around every once in a while. So yes, I have seen that. But other than that, I have not looked into that all that much. Oh, and Richard, thanks for the $1.99, reminds us also Trump was once a Democrat. Of course. Thank you, Richard. Appreciate that. That is true. Somebody else sent us something here that I missed. Let me see here. Who sent us something about a show that we were mentioned on? Was that a Rumble rant or a super chat? Somebody sent us something saying we were on the Oompaville podcast. Oh, yes. Garble. I'm sorry. I missed this one, Garble, earlier. I meant to read this.
What is this?
Okay, so, yeah, I missed this one earlier. That's why I was looking for it. I apologize for skipping you in the line, but here it is. Did you see Hughes was on an Oompaville video? Steven Crowder is losing his mind at 1 minute and 16 seconds, briefly. So we were featured in a video. I've never heard of Oompaville. Have you heard of Who in the chat has heard of Oompaville? I've never heard of it. Anybody know? I don't know what they are referring to there.
The channel of renegade Oompa Loompas.
Yeah, exactly. All righty, folks.
Hang on. Let's before we get into the Uhuru thing, let's plug our call for one acts.
Oh yeah. Let's do that now. Good call.
All right, so folks, we have been talking for a long time about doing an arts festival that would be live streamed in the manner of the old Playhouse 90. In the early days of television, they really were drawing a lot of inspiration from theater, and honestly, they still do. That's why you see playwrights are very often hired as television writers. You don't see it as much with screenwriting because the art form is closer, because TV tends to stick to conversation and one set or two set kind of setups, so it has more overlap stylistically. So in the early days of television, there was a show called Playhouse 90 where they would premiere plays with a live audience. That is essentially what we're thinking of doing early next year, probably around March. We would like to release an arts festival where we will have live performances, music, poetry, maybe some panel discussions, but really we want to do some one-act plays. We might do one full length if we get something good enough, we'll see, but right now the focus is really on doing one acts. So one of the problems with this concept, although I don't think the writers are as bad as the actors. The actors have really just gone full shit lib. I think you still have some rebellious writers out there because I hear from them thanking me for speaking up in ways that they can if they want to keep their careers. But hey, man, maybe they're willing to light their careers on fire. So all this to say, we are now taking submissions for one-act plays and full-length plays. And we'll even, look, if you can get yourself to New York in March, we will pay people for their appearances. We cannot pay people for their transportation and accommodation. So you have to be able to hook yourself up. But if you have a band, if you're a musician, nothing crazy elaborate. This will probably be in a theater space. We're not going to have the kind of sound setup that you would need to really have a 4-piece rock band. Think more acoustic if that's what you're doing. Right. But yes, we are taking submissions now. If you want to do poetry, if you want to do music, keep in mind the limitations on that. And if you are a writer, if you have plays, we will take full lengths, but we're mainly looking at one acts right now. Send your submissions to dudissidents@gmail.com. I'm really excited about this. You know, I've been talking about this for at least a year. So now, thanks to all of you, we feel like we could make this happen successfully. Dudissidents@gmail.com.
Yes, for your submissions, right? So we will do those just the same way we took some of the music submissions, logo submissions, and Jake will flag those for us. So we are going to be reading scripts probably through about the end of the year, and then when we have a lineup that we feel will make for a good show, we will put together the dates. Like I said, the goal is late winter, early spring, March, ideally. All righty. Perfect. Glad we could get to that. Excited to announce that. We are going to now move right along, folks. So yesterday, we had the pleasure of interviewing Omali Yeshitela from the African People's Socialist Party. We interviewed him for
let me just say, you're gonna have to start again. And we will take comics. We're talking about booking comics too.
Right. Yeah, there you go. There you go.
All right.
Yeah, so yesterday we interviewed our friend Omali Yeshitela from the African People's Socialist Party. They are facing trial 1 week from today. That will be September 3rd, I believe that, right? Because August is a 31-day month. That's right. So their trial starts on September 3rd, and Omali came on to talk to us about the upcoming actions surrounding that case and a few other topics. We're going to premiere the entire interview tomorrow on the channel, but this is the most immediate and urgent part of that interview. This was about the first 17 minutes and change, and so this is really an important call to action here. I think JB from RBN is going to be in St. Pete for that action because he lives in Orlando, so I think he's making his way over there, and we are looking to stream the rally, which is going to be this Saturday at 11 a.m., but this is sort of a call to action, an update on where they are in this most important case. This is really free speech on trial. And so we're going to mute up and full screen this video now. This is part of an interview that we recorded yesterday with Uhuru's Omali Yeshitela. Folks, we are here joined once again by the co-founder and current chairman of the African People's Socialist Party, Omali Yeshitela. Omali, it's great to speak to you again.
Thank you so much. It's hard for me to describe how significant I think it is that we're having this discussion when so much work is being done by the traditional colonial capitalist media to keep the people from knowing about this case, and which is a threat to the rights of all the people here. So I really appreciate being able to be with you.
Of course.
We appreciate you joining us. Thank you.
Yes, it was great talking to you. We interviewed you a couple months ago, and we definitely wanted to make a point to do it again. And this time, obviously, this takes place under very urgent circumstances. So I want to cut right to the chase here with our call to action. There is going to be a march and rally on Saturday, August 31st at 11 a.m. at the Uhuru House in St. Petersburg, Florida. The address is up here on the screen, 1245 18th Avenue South 18th Avenue South in St. Petersburg. And this is the Eventbrite link, but you could sign up an RSVP to attend this march and rally at handsoffuhuru.org/march. So, Chairman, do you want to just give people an overview of the case, the timeline of the trial, and the importance of this action on Saturday?
Well, first of all, I just want to thank you again. And for those people who are not familiar with the case, on July 29, 2022, my wife and I were in St. Louis preparing for the day. And at 5 o'clock in the morning, pre-dawn in St. Louis, this noise came from outside the house, a loudspeaker declaring that this was the FBI, come out with your hands up and your hands empty. And then after having said that, these loud explosions started to go off around our house, and we were to discover in the house too, in the back stairwell of the house. And so I went downstairs, asked my wife to stay there and call people and let them know we were under attack. The phone was jammed. She couldn't do that. So I went downstairs and was greeted by an armored personnel carrier in front of my house. And these military forces armed with assault weapons, with laser targeting devices mounted on them and then hitting me in the chest. So this was when we were aware that this case was beginning, that something was happening to us beyond the typical kind of government intervention that we expect all the time. And so while they were doing this at my home in the northern St. Louis, which is where the majority of the African people live, in southern St. Louis, we have another office, which is where the majority of white people live, and they attacked our center there. And we learned this after we were permitted by these military forces to leave my home and then to drive away. And we went to the Solidarity Center that we have and found FBI agents surrounding that. They had invaded, they had done things similar. They had used battering rams, knocked down doors, taken equipment and phones and other kinds of communication devices, recording devices, tons and tons of stuff. They stayed from 6 to 8 hours in these buildings in my home and in the Solidarity Center there. They did the same thing at the same time in St. Petersburg, Florida, where I'm sitting right now. My house here, they invaded, although the house was empty because we live in St. Louis. And they did the same thing here. They invaded our center, the Uhuru house here in St. Petersburg, Florida. They knocked down every door in the building. They used battering rams. They stole all kinds of materials. They went into our archives, took stuff out of that. They put our radio station temporarily off the air. It was just a very violent kind of assault. And then they said they were doing this because they wanted to serve a search warrant because we were to be listed in an indictment. We were mentioned in an indictment that was coming down that same day in Tampa, Florida, against a Russian national. And so that was on July 29th, 2022. And then 9 months later, it took 9 months. Then we are indicted. And we're indicted because we are declared to be Russian agents, that we no longer have agency, that the work that we do is being done for Russia. I went to Moscow and therefore I became some kind of agent. I protested, I united in opposition to the war that was initiated against Russia and Ukraine, using with the US and NATO using Ukraine as the vehicle to continue a war that's been going on against Russia for more than 100 years, starting with the US and all the colonial powers, including Japan, invasion of the Soviet Russia, as they characterized it at the time, in 1918. So that's been an ongoing, unrelenting kind of war, and I acknowledged that, and also said how that was connected to the entire colonial question. So that was evidence of my being a Russian agent. As a Russian agent, because we ran for office in 2017, 2019. We ran candidates for office in St. Petersburg, Florida, with a population that approximates something like 300,000 people at most. And it was determined that the Russians paid for this. We ran on the platform of reparations for African people and against gentrification. So the Russians paid for this. This is further evidence. We had a Russian national who is also one of these indicted persons now, had him to appear shortly. Well, first of all, I should say that I came out in opposition to the U.S. aggression in Russia something like a day or two publicly before the so-called invasion happened. It was in a week after that, then we get this attack in July on our houses and things like that. So it's a bunch of stuff like that. And it presupposes that history began at this moment in 2014 or 2015. We're not sure exactly when, but it seems like 2014, 2015. This is the beginning of history. Doesn't make any difference that in addition to having gone to Moscow, that I had traveled all around the world on the same mission to win unity for the Black Liberation Movement and in the isolation of this movement. It doesn't matter that that's what I've been doing. It doesn't matter that there's a whole solidarity movement that we created for that purpose here in the United States that functions in something like 130 cities, mostly white people. It doesn't matter. No history, none of that matters. What matters is is that now that I'm working for the Russians, this is where history begins with this fabricated relationship that we have with Russia. So that's the kind of thing that we've been dealing with, and it's been quite serious. Banks have sanctioned us. Banks we've been working with for more than 20 years. Suddenly they said they wanted they wanted the payment for a mortgage that about $80,000 that had to be paid in 2 weeks. They shut down people's personal accounts and things like that. The church across the street from my house was burned, torched. This is where we had it under contract to put another program there. We have something like 52 economic development programs that exist for promoting the independence and their economic development programs. So all of this stuff has come under assault as well. So we're fighting. And on the 31st, as it's been suggested, it's going to be a really, really, really important gathering of people coming into St. Petersburg, Florida, which is, again, one of the sites that came under attack. But it's also right across the bridge from Tampa, Florida, where the federal trial is going to occur on the 3rd of September. So all kinds of people are coming in. It's going to be an extraordinary mobilization there and on August 31st. And we're calling on people to join. Come on in.
Well, Chairman Yeshitela, the last time you were on, we got a little bit into this. In many respects, a group like yours evokes the 60s, the 70s, some of the Black Panther Party. We just got back from covering the DNC in Chicago, the city of Fred Hampton. And this case against you also evokes that period. And that's not an accident. Groups like yours are so rare today because this is what they did to those earlier groups. You're one of the few groups left standing. And something that struck me being at those marches, the left has this self-loathing, I think, because they don't know their own history. Oh, why is the left so disorganized? Why are their leaders so weak? By design. By design, because every group like yours was subjected to attacks like this. Could you speak on that a little bit?
I think that's absolutely true. I mean, you mentioned the 1960s, and of course, this is the period of terror. We had great, remarkable movements that connected all around the world. The African liberation movement was ubiquitous, but and you saw the U.S. government move against Nkrumah in Ghana in 66. They overthrew him. They killed Lumumba in 61. They were wreaking havoc. In 1967, October, after having wounded and captured Che Guevara, they murdered him. So it was just all around this country. And then inside the United States in 1968 alone, I think something like 30 members of the Black Panther Party were killed and more than 300 arrested during that period. And you mentioned Fred Hampton because the Attorney General of the United States had declared that by the end of 1969, the Black Panther Party would be destroyed. And of course, December 4th, 1969 is when the FBI and the Chicago police conspired, and they went into this house in West Monroe in Chicago, December 4th, 1969, and they executed Fred Hampton after having drugged him to make sure that he was helpless in his sleep. They executed him. A week later, they attacked the Black Panther office in Los Angeles, engaged in an hours-long gun battle there because the Panthers had learned from what had happened in Chicago and had fortified the place so they could put up a more effective resistance. This is where you see the emergence of SWAT teams. These militarized cops, SWAT teams come out of this process. And so people were being assassinated because it had the so-called struggle of Black people in this country had matured beyond this whimpering desire to join with America, to integrate into it, and was talking an anti-colonial discussion. In 1966, people were talking about Black power, talking about a movement for power is a movement against colonialism. The Panther Party spoke eloquently about colonialism. Frantz Fanon was out there, colonialism, and the whole anti-colonial movement had grasped the world. And so this is what came under assault. 1964 was really important. I want to just say this, if I may, because 1964, a Mississippi Freedom Summer, so that Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, SNCC, was the main organizer for that. It was really important because the media had gotten bored of the civil rights movement, Black people just being killed, etc. And Mississippi was like the headquarters, if you will, of the just gross, open, naked kind of oppression that we were experiencing. And so SNCC decided to do the summer project, the Mississippi Summer Project, Freedom Summer in Mississippi, and invited people from everywhere, and especially young white people who joined into this. Because they knew if white people came, the media was going to come, their mama, et cetera, their daddies, et cetera, were going to be concerned, and that would bring some more attention to what was happening to Black people in Mississippi. And sure enough, on the first day of the Freedom Summer in Mississippi, by the way, that's the process that thrust Fannie Lou Hamer into prominence for people outside of the movement who had never heard her before. This is a thing that when she was participating in the 1964 Democratic National Convention, similar to, I guess, what they've just been doing in Chicago this time, that Fannie Lou Hamer, when she was testifying, trying to prevent the Mississippi Freedom, the Mississippi regular lynch mob party have the credentials to represent the people of Mississippi. The Freedom Democratic Party, organized by SNCC, was trying to represent the people there. And the liberals had said that they were going to help with this. And of course, the chief liberals like Lyndon Baines Johnson, like Hubert Humphrey, like Mondale, all of them double-crossed the people. But that was the Freedom Summer that people went in and organized throughout Mississippi to prepare for that, to go to the National Democratic Convention. And we have a Freedom Summer here, right now in St. Petersburg, Florida, where people have been coming into St. Petersburg, Florida. We're knocking on doors. We're talking to people in the community. We are organizing people, putting up posters and everything everywhere because we want the world to see this. This cannot be a silent or dark kind of lynch mob. People need to see what is going on. And we have nothing to hide. They didn't have to steal all of this terabytes from our computers. They didn't have to do. All they had to do was read our newspaper. All they do is it's on. We have open Zoom conferences. We have open, live streams such as this happening on a regular basis. They didn't have to do that stuff. So we're organizing people on the ground because we want the world to know what happened. And it's really interesting in terms of the Freedom Summer Mississippi 64 analogy now, because if you remember, they discovered on the first day of Freedom Summer in Mississippi, 3 persons had disappeared. They were Schwerner and Gutman, 2 white people, and Cheney, an African. And it's really interesting because what we have facing trial right now are 2 white people, Penny Hess and Justin Neville, and 1 African, me. And so it's worth noting, I think. But anyway, there's a lot of history here, and we want to build a movement because I didn't get involved in this struggle to keep me out of prison. I got involved in this struggle because of the oppression of African people, because the nature of this social system that bleeds the people, takes everything that looks like freedom, humiliates people on a regular kind of basis, and where the state has become this overbearing, intervening entity openly now. And so that's the thing that we are challenging. And that's the thing we're asking everybody to challenge through. I'm not trying to make anybody else an African internationalist. I do my work in our communities. We do that to try to organize African people. And we're not asking Kamala or Joe to become anti-colonialists. We're not saying anything like that. But what we are saying is this, that you put forth this, you wrote the Constitution. I'm talking about the people who run this government, who run this system. There's such a thing as a Bill of Rights that was created to protect the rights of white people. And I say that without hesitation because when the Bill of Rights were adopted by the U.S. Congress in 1791, Black people were under the lash. It was not written for us. It was written for people who had escaped tyranny, a monarchy, and what have you, the divine right of kings, where there were no rights at all, and they guaranteed there were rights. they made this Constitution, and to top it off, they created this Bill of Rights that included free speech, freedom of assembly, freedom from unreasonable search and seizures, and all this kind of stuff. And that's what I'm saying, that when they attack me, they are not attacking me. They're attacking free speech. They're attacking the Constitution. And that means the Constitution and for whom it was written.
All right. That is a preview of our full interview tomorrow, which is a little over 1 hour long. Great to talk to Omali again. And if you are in the Florida area, or you can make it, handsoffuhuru.org/march. They are doing their rally and march in St. Petersburg, Florida, which is just across the river, as I understand. Not an expert on Florida geography, but that's the way it sounds. Right across the river from Tampa. So that's the major city there. But that's at 11 a.m. And I'm going to be in touch with them, but it looks like they're going to be streaming it. So if they're streaming it, we will stream it as a Rumble exclusive that day. So stay tuned on that. But yeah, it was great to talk to Omali one more time before the trial. Hopefully there will be many more times that we get to talk to him. But it was really important for us to get in touch with him before this court case. We interviewed one of the other defendants and their lawyer a few weeks ago. But this is really, it is the criminalization of dissent. There's been a long history in this country of criminalization of black dissent. And this is just the latest chapter. And, one of the reasons why you don't see this too much anymore, Russell touched on this, Omali touched on this, a lot of groups like Omali's have been done away with. They are survivors. That's why they're being targeted, because they are survivors.
That's it. And that's what really strikes me. We have a tendency to really have the wrong conversation on the left. Why don't we have real leadership? Well, we did.
Right.
We did. The reason that the so-called left is overrun by what I consider largely very weak, mentally weak, neurotic people who tend to default to seeing themselves as victims, to defining everything with a worldview that inherently implies a certain helplessness against bigger forces than themselves. That's you're never gonna have any kind of meaningful social transformation, much less a revolution, if that's how you look at things. Look at whatever you think about the Chinese Revolution, the Cuban Revolution, whatever you think about those things and their outcomes, or the Russian Revolution for that matter. Those people had fucking stones, man. Those people were willing to put up with deprivation. They were willing to put up with hardship. They were not sitting there and saying, well, there are forces that make things this way. That's a weak mentality. And the more you learn about the history of the intelligence agencies, COINTELPRO, the way they infiltrated organizations, the way they use lawfare against them, the left you have today is not, this is the mistake I think a lot of people make on the left. They think that it's inherent to leftism to be weak and neurotic. It is not inherent. They took out everyone who wasn't like that and cultivated everyone who was. That is the reason you see the left movement you see today. And that is why you interview Chairman Yeshitela. And it's a throwback, man. It's a throwback because most people like him that have such a deep and broad analysis that really, really challenges power, they took all those people out a long time ago, man. It's amazing the organization is still going. We're talking to him, and you'll see if you watch the full interview about all the incredible works that they've done in St. Louis, and the liberal class will tell you that's what they want. They want to see self-sufficient black communities building businesses and basketball courts and community centers. If they really believed that, they'd love this group. They'd fund them. They'd give them grants. But they don't believe any of that. They don't believe any of that.
Right. Yeah, they have been largely invisibilized. And, we won't make a formal announcement for a while, but we are going to try to do a special project highlighting, their work in the coming year.
Yeah, they only like black figures like that if they're going to go out there and be buffoonish. They're going to be clownish. They love if Don King goes to a McDonald's and gives them a big cardboard check. They don't want to see legitimate challenges to power like this. They only want expressions of black power, black self-sufficiency, if it's corporatized and packaged in neoliberal terms.
Yeah, we'll give him a speaking role at the DNC, right?
Exactly.
Jez BH, you want some hard-hitting social commentary? Check out Combat Shock. Russ will love it. Thank you. Eric Husso, this country really needs Shama Swant's Workers' Party to take off and succeed this February. Yes, they are doing a conference in February. Location to be determined. We're going to try to make that as well. Thank you, Eric.
That's one of the things. Once we figure out what our projects next year are going to be, we're going to fundraise, but that's definitely one of the things we want to do.
Yeah, for sure. Abiding 71, Dem Party really screwed the pooch, alienating young billionaire Nicole Shanahan. Yeah, there we go. Ken Texican, thanks for the $50. Let's get a cowbell out for Ken Texican. I'm an equal opportunist. There you go. And we'll raise a white Russian or a black Russian to pissing on shit lib rugs. Go, dude, dissidents. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you, man.
Golden Gun, thanks for the $2. When push comes to shove, you could always dip a tampon in some 1775 and shove it up your ass. As the James Carville should read that, actually. Okay. Judy Denmark, thanks for the $5. Don't underestimate how big a difference Tulsi would have made compared to J.D. Vance. Vance disgusts me, but if Tulsi were on the ticket, I'd vote for Trump in a heartbeat. Yeah, no, I mean, look, I think she has more crossover appeal. She has definitely more crossover appeal, than he does. No question about that. All right, let's go to some super chats over here. Blas says, please interview Daniel Mate and Matt Lieb. Yeah, they do the Bad Hasbro podcast, right? That's Aaron's brother, and Matt Lieb is the comic, right?
Isn't his brother a theater guy?
That makes sense. I mean, I know Matt Lieb is a stand-up. Yeah. So, yeah, it makes sense they'd have that show together. Thank you. Due Dissidents, Keaton and Weiss, Keaton and Russell, will someday be celebrated as one of the pioneers of a cultural, intellectual, and political revolution that contributed to the enlightenment of generations to come. Well, that's very flattering.
From your mouth to God's ears. That's why very many people call us the Bill and Ted of the podcasting space.
Yeah, exactly. Landrew, thanks for $100 from Landrew. Let's get Landrew's sound drop.
Matt.
Thank you, my friend. Appreciate that. Thanks so much for watching today. Much love to you, Chairman. Peace, community, and solidarity. Thank you, Keaton and Russell. Well, thank you, Landrew. Appreciate that very much. We got his sound drop there.
I am Landrew.
Landrew is dead.
Yeah, we'll give him a cowbell as well. Thank you very much. All right. Oh, hey, you want to have some fun? We were talking. You want to do a Truth Social ad? You want to really troll the libs?
Sure.
All right. Let's do some trolling. Let's do an ad read and a troll. So Truth Social is now
everybody's saying it's the best social media platform.
Everyone is talking. People are talking. All right, here we go. All right, let me get this script done, and then we will add our commentary. All right, get ready. Liberal heads exploding in 3, 2, 1. Here we go. Big tech is suppressing free speech everywhere, and it's clear their censorship campaign is going to get even worse. That is true. Without free speech, we won't have a free society. That's why you need to dump the big tech bosses and join the Truth Social movement now. It's a beautiful movement, a big, beautiful movement. No one's seen any movement like it. You got to join it. At Truth Social...
Everyone's joining.
Everyone's
joining.
It's incredible. It's incredible.
Everyone has it. I had a bunch of people. They showed me their phones yesterday. It's all Truth Social.
All Truth Social and the homepage and everything. That's right. And a big picture of me as well. Right? At Truth Social, you get all your news and opinions, set up or join groups based on your hobbies or interests, and make yourself heard on any issue without being squelched by big tech censors. Join the network that is the leading platform for direct, unfiltered access to Donald Trump's social media posts so you can keep up to date on all the Trump news. And if you want instant access to all of Trump announcements, plans, and reactions to the biggest issues of the day, Truth Social is the platform for you. So break free of big tech suppression, strike a blow against cancel culture, and reclaim your rights on America's premier free speech social media platform. Join Truth Social today, and we will make America great again. That's Truth Social.
For a limited time, signups come with morning after pills because regular way is becoming very unavailable.
Becoming unavailable. That's right. That's right. We should join Truth Social. We were talking about joining a while ago, right?
Well, I mean, given what we do, we should, because
it's fun.
He does his truth storms or whatever you call them over there.
That's right.
On that side.
You need the truth storms. That's right. He put out a bunch of truth storms
during
during Kamala's speech, and we missed them.
Yeah.
We missed all of them. Right. Because we had to be on Truth Social. Yeah. We weren't on Truth. We got to get on Truth. So,
if you want to hear from the poet warrior in the classic sense that is one Donald J. Trump,
right.
You need to be on Truth Social.
That's probably a scene over there. We should really get on there. You should be able to live stream to there. That would be kick-ass. He should do live streaming on Truth Social. Just like you can live stream to X, you should be able to live stream there. That would be fun.
I mean, I hear that is where all of the Tulsi Gabbard hentai drawings are.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you got to go there for that. Although I'm surprised Elon. You would think Elon might allow them. You know, Elon.
He might think he might draw them.
Yeah, that's true. He might draw them. Right. All right. Well, hey, speaking of free speech, I mean, that was a nice lead in because we have a couple of big tech censorship stories coming up right now. Actually, the first one's not even a tech censorship story. The first one is a government censorship story. And so why don't we get into that? Russell, this is yours.
All right. So, you know how I always say very often the financial press is better because they're just degenerate gamblers. They'll just report it straight. And they always want to be on top of the latest information. Believe it or not, Seeking Alpha, this is really for the half-assed day traders. But we had breaking news as I was putting this together, and they were the first people I could find who had it, because now the French prosecutor has announced the charges. But we will get into that. All right, so Telegraph-backed CEO Pavel Durov as his arrest prompts online backlash. Telegram has backed its CEO Pavel Durov, who was arrested on Saturday in France and is reportedly still being detained for questioning, with the messaging platform saying he has, quote, nothing to hide. The Russia-born billionaire was arrested at Le Bourget airport near Paris as part of an investigation into an alleged lack of moderation on Telegram, which police claim has allowed criminal activity, including crimes against minors, to go undetected on the app. Quote, Telegram abides by EU laws, including the Digital Services Act. Its moderation is within industry standards and constantly improving, the platform said. Durov has nothing to hide and travels frequently in Europe. It is absurd to claim that a platform or its owner are responsible for abuse of that platform. The arrest prompted widespread online backlash. Elon Musk, CEO of social media app X, tweeted a response from xAI's chatbot Grok when asked about Durov's arrest. Quote, check out this ad for the First Amendment. It is very convincing, he captioned the post. Rumble CEO Chris Pavlovsky said France threatened the conservative-focused media platform. And, okay, so I just want to interject here for a minute. So I actually had a woman, because I was questioning, if you go to our Rumble stream, you'll find the mostly naked woman covered in white paint. She's kind of a performance artist, as far as I could tell, was asking where we were streaming. And I said, Rumble. And a woman on the side said, oh, Rumble's a right-wing platform. I said, you know, we were at Worker Strike Back last night, streaming Jill Stein, Nick Cruz, Shama Swan. Is that a right-wing platform?
Yeah,
Now,
and we were second on their homepage, second to a Donald Trump rally, and we got 140,000 views on that stream.
I can tell you they've been giving us a tremendous amount of support. And it is pretty clear, particularly by the fact that we cover events like that. They know where we're coming from politically, and they're not burying us. They're not showing a bias against us. They are behaving as you would expect a company that really believes in free speech would behave. Hey, these guys are putting on a good show, and they're speaking and platforming speech. Let's put them on the homepage. Right? If it were a right-wing platform, they would not put us on the homepage.
Our guy over there, our point of contact, I won't say his name. I don't know if he wants it out there, but he was saying that they had us on in the TV at their studio while we were streaming from the Free Palestine March. So they actually watched the whole thing back. Back.
They were literally watching our coverage in the office.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
So at that point, I mean, what are you talking about? But this is how they brainwash people.
Right. Exactly.
This is how they brainwash people. It's little subtle things like that. Conservative focused media platform. No, it's not conservative focused. What it is a lot of the people they identify as left, which I would not even consider them left, but a lot of what they identify as left are liberals who don't actually believe in freedom of speech, who, as we will see in these stories, they're openly hostile to freedom of speech. So as a result, they don't go to Rumble.
Well,
Rumble
not
has
only
the
that,
stink on it because it allows freedom of speech.
Not only that, but one of the part of why they've been defined as a right of center platform is because it was in years past mostly right-wing figures who were censored off of the big tech platforms.
Right.
Since October 7th, they've seen an influx of left creators because the censors came from the left in the age of the Israel-Gaza war. Richard Medhurst, who incidentally was also arrested for wrongthink this past week or so, that's his main home now because he got demonetized on YouTube. And so as the times change, more people are going to be flooding to platforms that don't censor like this.
Hey, we talk about, well, you couldn't really do this show in China. Shit, man, I wouldn't feel comfortable doing our show in Europe at this point. I'd be afraid. I'm serious. I'd be afraid they're going to come arrest me.
Yeah.
Because England forget about England. Now you can be arrested for making people feel bad on the internet. And the EU has its digital content laws.
Hold on. I just want to make a point because now while we're paused on this, in my fuck America monologue that I did the other night, I got some comments. Well, why don't you just leave? Why don't you just move? And that's actually a fair question, and it's actually an especially fair question in my case. More fair than you even realize, because I am a citizen of the EU. I could pack up the family and go to Europe and work in Europe. But given shit like this, yeah, absolutely. Like, I don't want to. I don't know if I could do this show there.
Right. I
mean, Medhurst was arrested for wrongthink. That is literally what he was arrested for. Maybe we'll get into more detail on a Rumble switchover at a certain point, since we have to be very careful what we say here in East Berlin about that. But that's literally what they got. Wrongthink. Arrested for wrongthink, and now going to be charged. He's out on bail now for expressing the wrong opinion. Literally, that is literally true. What they got him for. I hate to even say that. And he's not alone. Obviously, we have this story. Sorry, I didn't mean to break the flow. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, England is the worst.
Yeah,
England is the worst. Ironically.
Yeah.
So yeah, no. At this point, like living within the EU, I wouldn't feel comfortable if I were going to be an expat somewhere. I know, man. Southeast Asia or something, probably.
Yeah.
All right. So Rumble CEO Chris Pavlovsky said France threatened the, and editorial brackets, conservative focused media platform and crossed a red line with Durov's arrest. Rumble will use every legal means available to fight for freedom of expression, a universal human right. You go, Chris. I think we could say friend of show, Chris Pavlovsky.
There you go.
American whistleblower Edward Snowden said Durov's arrest, quote, was an assault on the basic human rights of speech and association. Conservative political commentator Tucker Carlson said the arrest is, quote, a living warning to any platform owner who refuses to censor the truth at the behest of governments and intel agencies. And that's exactly what it is. And as we'll see, they've been putting pressure on him for a long time. All right. So also seeking alpha, this just broke right before we went on air. The authorities laid out the charges against him. They had not explained why he was arrested before. The Office of the French Prosecutor, which spearheaded the arrest of Telegram chief executive Pavel Durov, has listed out 12 charges explaining the arrest of the Russian billionaire in a public statement. Durov, who holds Russian, French, Kittian, and what is that? Kittitian? What is that?
Kitidian. Yeah, I don't know about that. Kitidian.
No, it's Kittitian, isn't it? All
Maybe.
right, we have the
Petition,
we have the smartest audience. Oh, hang on, I skipped that paragraph. The Paris Public Prosecutor's Office said the Durov's arrest comes in the context of a judicial investigation that was opened on July 8th this year, following a preliminary inquiry initiated by the cybercrime unit of the prosecutor's office. Okay, so smartest audience in the business. Tell us what citizenship that is. And Emirati citizenship was arrested on Saturday on the outskirts of Paris and then taken into police custody at 8 p.m. local time, the statement from Monday said. The French prosecutor, Laure Becquer, has brought up the following charges against Durov. 1, complicity. Webmastering an online platform in order to enable an illegal transaction in organized group. 2, refusal to communicate at the request of competent authorities information or documents necessary for carrying out and operating interceptions allowed by law. 3, complicity, possessing pornographic images of minors. 4, complicity, distributing, offering, or making available pornographic images of minors in organized group. 5, complicity, acquiring, transporting, possessing, offering, or selling narcotic substances. 6, complicity, offering, selling, or making available without legitimate reason equipment, tools, programs, or data designed for or adapted to get access to and to damage the operation of an automated data processing system. 7, complicity, organized fraud. 8, criminal association with a view to committing a crime or an offense punishable by 5 or more years of imprisonment. 9, laundering of the proceeds derived from organized groups' offenses and crimes. 10, providing cryptology services aiming to ensure confidentiality without certified declaration. 11, providing a cryptology tool not solely ensuring authentication or integrity monitoring without prior declaration. 12, importing a cryptology tool ensuring authentication or integrity monitoring without prior declaration. Okay, so it sounds to me, I'm not a legal expert, like this boils down to running an uncensored platform and not cooperating with the authorities in disclosing user information, which indeed is one of the things governments have been leaning on him for many years now. Quote, the investigative magistrates in charge of this... can you do something about the baby, man?
What's that?
It's pretty loud, the baby.
Oh, here, let me, hold on.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll switch my
It sounds like a maternity ward on this show.
Here, this should work.
All right.
There we go.
Quote, the investigative magistrates in charge of this preliminary judicial investigation have requested a co-referral of the Center for the Fight Against Cybercrime, Centre de lutte contre les criminalités numériques pneumatics. I could have just skipped that. But wasn't it fun to hear me try to read it? And the Anti-Fraud National Office for the pursuance of the investigations. It is within this procedural framework in which Pavel Durov was questioned by the investigators, the English translation of the official statement said. Durov's custody period was extended until August 25th by an investigative magistrate and can last up to 96 hours until August 28th, the statement concluded. So that's tomorrow. That's tomorrow. So my understanding is by tomorrow, they have to either charge him or release him. You wanted to add something, Keith?
I mean, it's a very chilling thing to see a platform owner be responsible, criminally, according to the government here, for everything that goes on the platform. Obviously, if people are abusing the platform and breaking the law, they could be prosecuted. I mean, that's obviously fair. No one's saying you should be allowed to distribute, criminal materials or like facilitate, drug deals or anything like that. But that's on the user. That's not on the platform itself.
Of course.
Yeah, it's on the user.
It's like charging the phone company for illegal activity coordinated by phone.
Exactly. Well, yes. I mean, to take that example to its logical conclusion, which is what a lot of people advocate for, that's why these should be regulated as public utilities.
Exactly.
Because it makes no sense to hold a platform responsible for the behavior of its users. People use Facebook to do illegal shit. People send messages about breaking the law on Facebook. They could DM, on X. I mean, it's just ridiculous that you would drag the owner of that platform to jail over that.
Well, this is the ongoing war that's been continuing since they figured out these platforms can not only be manipulated to stir up unrest in the Middle East, hence the Arab Spring. They were very happy with these platforms when they thought it was going to be a tool for the CIA, which it still is. But when they found out the people could use the platform the same way, and they might not use it in ways that they like, there has been a war against a free internet, and that war is largely within American politics coming from the Democratic side. It just is. That is just a fact. Yes, Donald Trump can say his nutty shit about deporting people, which would never clear a court, and which, frankly, he doesn't have the focus to follow through on anyway. He says all kinds of things. He goes on for 15 minutes about whether he'd rather drown or face a shark.
Right.
So you can't use that to say, well, he's just the same. No, I'm sorry. Most of this effort to really shut down free speech on the internet is coming from Democrats. It is coming from liberals. It is coming from one particular side. And as I've said many times, it's terrible that we're put in a position that we have to choose which billionaires are better on speech. But unfortunately, that's where we are.
I mean, when it comes to the internet, it's almost all from the Democratic side. Where Trump's infringements on the First Amendment come from are actually like in the analog world. 10 years for defacing a statue, a year for burning the flag, deporting students for protesting on campus. Like that those are all egregious violations of the First Amendment. They exist in the real world. It's not online. Online, it's almost all Democrat control.
Right. We just showed when we were interviewing Yeshitela, Tim Waltz on MSNBC said there is no guarantee to free speech of misinformation. Yes, there is.
Of course there is.
Yes, there is.
Yes.
Who decides what misinformation is? We saw how that worked out not very long ago. You know what I mean?
Well, even in the case where there is like misinformation, like, look, Twitter is now, compared to Facebook, as we'll get into in the next segment, less censorious than most of these platforms. Certainly less censorious than Facebook. Instagram, obviously owned by the same parent company.
Literally shared a video
Google.
Of a kid with half his head blown off.
Yeah, no, it's definitely less censorious on a whole. That's not to say, Elon has a squeaky clean record. He obviously does not, as we've mentioned over and over again. But yeah, look, like there are lies, flat out lies, that spread on Twitter faster than they would spread on Facebook. The boxer, who several high-profile accounts said was trans, who was not trans, yeah, that misinformation was fake, spread far and wide on X. There are a lot of stories like that where you'll see an account say, breaking, they'll say some headline with no link, no sourcing. That's not true. That gets tweeted out, reaches hundreds of thousands of people. Is it annoying? Sure. But it's the price of doing business on a free platform. It's the price of living in a free society. Like, are there certain times when I'll see something on Twitter and think, if this isn't corroborated anywhere else, I really got to think twice before I put this on the show or use this as a source? Absolutely. And does it create an added headache? Absolutely. But that's the price of free speech, and I'll pay that price 7 days a week. I would much rather have to do the extra work every once in a while of parsing out what's legit and what's not legit than have to hold my breath every time I fire off a post. Am I going to get banned for saying this? Right? Like, yeah, there's a trade-off. It's a no-brainer what world I'd rather live in. Of course, you take the world where information gets out there. The fake information, they have ways, they'll community note it or it'll get refuted. And sometimes it won't. Like, sometimes mistakes are going to happen. That's just the price of being able to run your mouth. And I'll pay that price every day. No question.
Right. And needless to say, there's a double standard because the corporate media spreads misinformation all day, every day, demonstrably so. And
well, that's obvious.
They don't get thrown off platforms.
They don't get thrown off. No.
Platforms, and we don't advocate that they do. But then the average schmuck gets banned.
Right.
Exactly. All right, throw it back up. All right. So breaking: Rumble founder Chris Pavlovsky leaves Europe due to the arrest of Telegram's Durov. After the arrest of Durov, the founder of the YouTube competition Rumble left Europe in fear. Quote, I'm a little late to this, but for good reason. I've just safely departed from Europe. France has threatened Rumble, and now they have crossed a red line by arresting Telegram CEO Pavel Durov, reportedly for not censoring speech. Rumble will not stand for this behavior and will use every legal means available to fight for freedom of expression, a universal human right. We are currently fighting in the courts of France, and we hope for Pavel Durov's immediate release, he said. Now, this was something else. He retweeted David Sachs. TikTok. Now, originally, he sent out a tweet with TikTok crossed off and the same list. So now he sent out an updated tweet with Telegram crossed off. And make no mistake, you've had this back and forth with Keir Starmer and Elon Musk in the UK, where he's trying to blame X for the riots they recently had. Elon tweeted out something saying civil war was inevitable in England. They've openly discussed arresting Elon Musk if he goes there. So yeah, no, X is the next target. These are very, very dangerous times in this space and for the entire Western world and its traditions of free speech. Now, April 16th, this dropped on X. Tucker had a little conversation with Durov. And let's see what he said. He describes American agents trying to quietly pay his people, essentially to sabotage the platform, to open up backdoor codes so that they could watch what goes on Telegram.
And we get too much attention from the FBI, the security agencies, wherever we came to the US. So to give you an example, last time I was in the US, I brought an engineer that is working for Telegram, and there was an attempt to secretly hire my engineer behind my back by cybersecurity officers or agents, wherever they are called.
The US government tried to hire your engineer?
That's my understanding. That's what he told me.
To write code for them or to break into Telegram?
They were curious to learn which open source libraries are integrated to the Telegram's app on the client side, and they were trying to persuade him to use certain open source tools that he would then integrate into the Telegram's code that, in my understanding, would serve as backdoors.
Would allow the U.S. government to spy on people who use Telegram.
The U.S. government, or maybe any other government, because a backdoor is a backdoor regardless of who is using it.
That's right.
And
that's a little surprising to hear. Maybe it's not surprising. It's offensive. You're confident that happened?
Yes. There is no reason for my engineer to make up the stories. Also because I personally experienced similar pressure in the US. Whenever I would go to the US, I would have two FBI agents greeting me at the airport, asking questions. One time I was having my breakfast at like 9 a.m. and the FBI showed up at my house that I was renting. And that was quite surprising. And I thought, we're getting too much attention here. It's probably not the best environment to run.
Why would had you committed a crime?
No, they were interested to learn more about Telegram. They knew I, left Russia. They knew what we were doing, but they wanted details. And my understanding is that they wanted to establish a relationship to, in a way, control Telegram better. I understand they were doing their job. It's just that for us running a privacy-focused social media platform, that probably wasn't the best environment to be in. We want to be focused on what we do, not on government relations of that sort.
Government relations.
Okay, so what you really have to ask yourself when you hear that account is, okay, certainly they didn't just do that to him. And, okay, he said no. How many said yes that you just don't know about?
Right.
This is some of what we saw in the Twitter files, that behind the scenes, they were working with the FBI. And many of these platforms surely are. He said no. Most of them probably said yes. And what we'll get into in our next story, which kind of pairs with this very neatly, is Zuckerberg. He's getting color. He grew out a beard. It's like he's becoming a real boy.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
He has decided to turn on his masters. But yeah, this is terrifying. Look, back in the day, they had a lot of ways to gatekeep the flow of information. You had 3 news networks, you had certain newspapers, and it was very easy to make sure that anything that was very much at odds with official narratives would never get to most people. The internet blew all that up, and they've been struggling with how to get back that gatekeeping capacity ever since. Back in the day, they could say, no, of course you have freedom of speech, as long as you could hand out pamphlets on the corner that nobody was ever going to read. What do you mean? You could say whatever you want, but the big publishing houses were not going to publish that.
Right.
That's it. So you had very limited reach, but they could say, look, you have freedom of speech. You can print whatever you want that no one's ever going to read. The internet changed all that. And what you're seeing, what you've been seeing, particularly since 2016, and it's heating up now, is a battle for the establishment, for the forces that really control our governments, that really control our economies, the people behind the curtain. This internet thing is very dangerous to their power and to their control over people's perception of society and how it runs, and public policy. And they are struggling to propagandize enough of the population to see free speech as a danger to their safety, to get them to vocally support, as we saw at the DNC, support the idea of shutting down speech. And to really ironically, in very Orwellian fashion, Taibbi wrote an article about this. The way that the Democrats use the word freedom in this very Orwellian way. So they'll frame that as freedom from misinformation. Right? You're not shutting down freedom. You're expanding. You're free from the need to be confronted with misinformation. It's not censorship. It's an expansion of your freedoms.
Yeah, and Telegram is a platform that is not on the radar of everybody because in terms of like its grip on the discourse here, it's relatively obscure. But they have almost 1 billion users, 900 million.
It's much more popular in other countries. It's very popular in India and the Middle East.
Yeah, and it has grown by over 10% from 2023. So it's a fast growing platform as well. And look, it would never occur to me to hold a platform owner criminally liable for something that happens on their network. We were alerted to Telegram because a while back, it was like a year ago, I think, someone had created a fake Due Dissidents account, and they were like reaching out to people, telling them that like the guys want you on their show, so write back and we'll arrange an interview. And they were actually sending people contracts to appear on our show. We had no idea any of this was happening because we're not on the platform. So somebody alerted me to it. So I created a Telegram account for the sole purpose of going in and getting rid of this person.
Then we reached out to the French government.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah.
Told them about the problem we were having, and here's the result.
Yeah. No, I went in, I created an account, I found the impersonator, I reported it, and that was that. There hasn't been an issue since. Now, if the platform ignores you, like if they turn a blind eye to illegal shit that's happening on the platform and they don't help you resolve it, then I think they are perhaps civilly liable for damages incurred. Even then, I wouldn't say they're criminally liable. But yeah, like you have an obligation to, once the alarm bells are sounded that there's something happening on your platform, yeah, you should have to go in and fix that. Otherwise, I think you could be conceivably civilly liable for that. But the idea that you're going to arrest somebody and threaten them with jail time over somebody's misuse of the platform, I mean, it's absurd. And the bigger the platform, the more absurd it is. I mean, 900 million people on the platform. Of course, there's going to be shady shit going on. There's shady shit that goes on every platform. And they have mechanisms to combat it. That doesn't mean you jail the owner.
Shady shit going on in the mail.
Yeah.
You arrest the postmaster general.
Yeah, you don't jail the owner to make an example to everyone that they better not step out of line.
The people doing the illegal shit are the ones that are liable. That's how we handle it in every other form of communication.
Exactly.
Whether it's mail, whether it's the phone. Right. We don't go after the CEO of Spectrum because somebody did something illegal on a cell phone.
Right. Exactly. Well said. All right, let's take some more super chats and Rumble rants. We got a couple more pieces on the day here. Compatible is a silly, fun YouTuber. Sometimes talks about serious topics, sometimes memes, generally whatever is in the consciousness of elder Gen Z, younger millennial. Thank you, Angry Cabbage. Damn autocorrect, Oompaville. He has also been accused of being, compatible, so it's not Oompaville. He has also been accused of being hard right because he sometimes shoots guns on a range and has hung out with Donut Operator. Breaks down body cam footage. Ken Texican, thanks for the $7. Hope this doesn't seal my fate on a big red scary list, but I saw Tchaikovsky's Nutcracker 3 times in Houston and 4 times in Louisville. Speaking of which, gotta piss like a Russian racehorse. I'm out. All right, thanks, Ken Texican. Appreciate that. We got a super sticker over on YouTube, Adams for Sanity. Thank you for the $5. Appreciate that, folks. The super chats and Rumble rants are always super helpful. So we thank you guys for sending those over. I just got to remember to do this because we are on the new laptop today. So I want to make sure I do this. But folks, we want to run a patron show tonight. And so everyone on this list is invited. So if you want to help support what we do, go to patreon.com/Due Dissidents and become a member for as little as $5 a month. That's patreon.com/Due Dissidents. You can also join as a paid member on our Substack or our locals. Perks are the same across all platforms. Perks include your name up on this shiny show credit list. You also get call-in access to our weekly Q&As every Sunday night after the show, which take place exclusively on Rumble. And you also get access to our supporter streams. Our 30th supporter stream is tonight at 8 p.m. Supporters will get the email shortly after the conclusion of this show. So that's patreon.com/DoDissidents, DoDissidents.substack.com, or you can join our locals at DoDissidents.locals.com. If you're watching on Rumble, the easiest way to join the locals is to click that bright red join button underneath the screen. There are currently 2,400 of you over on Rumble, so click that join button underneath, become a member, get the good karma benefit of helping support independent media, and we will see you tonight at 8 p.m. We have a banger of a Rumble show tonight. We're going to go over the Gray Zone's backstage shenanigans at the DNC, and we're going to get into the curious case of RFK Jr. and the severed whale head. That is going to be a really fun one. And we're going to take your calls. Don't forget, the Rumble streams are interactive, so callers are welcome tonight.
It's going to be like Hound of the Baskervilles, only with disgusting fetid whale juice spilling on windshields.
Yes, exactly. Yes, the marine mammal version of Hound of the Baskervilles. That's right. Thank you guys all who have joined. You guys are the backbone of the program. Absolutely. All right, folks. So this next piece is sort of a complement to our previous piece. Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg admits Biden-Harris administration pressured company to censor Americans. So Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg admitted in a letter on Monday that his company, Facebook, was pressured by the Biden-Harris administration to censor Americans, particularly regarding COVID-19 content. Zuckerberg made the admission in a letter to House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jim Jordan of Ohio more than a year after providing the committee with thousands of documents as part of its investigation into content moderation on online platforms. Along with documents, the Meta CEO said the company has provided a dozen employees to be available for transcribed interviews, stressing Meta's cooperation with the investigation. So here is the letter that they sent. We'll zoom in here. Chairman Jordan, I appreciate the committee's interest in content moderation on online platforms. As you are aware, Meta has produced thousands of documents as part of your investigation and made a dozen employees available for transcribed interviews. Further to our cooperation with your investigation, I welcome the opportunity to share what I've taken away from this process. There's a lot of talk right now around the U.S. government, around how, the U.S. government interacts with companies like Meta, and I want to be clear about our position. Our platforms are for everyone. We're about promoting speech, and helping people connect in a safe and secure way. Well, there it is, right? We're about promoting speech unless it's not safe speech. Safe speech, refer to the community guidelines as to what constitutes safe speech, right?
Just take pictures of your avocado toast and shut the fuck up.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Tell your grandkids you love them and go on about your day. As part of this, we regularly hear from governments around the world and others with various concerns around public discourse and public safety. In 2021, as much as I love our new logo, I do have to nix it for this. In 2021, senior officials from the Biden administration, including the White House, repeatedly pressured our teams for months to censor certain COVID-19 content, including humor and satire, and expressed a lot of frustration with our teams when we didn't agree. Ultimately, it was our decision whether or not to take content down, and we own our decisions, including COVID-related changes we made to our enforcement in the wake of this pressure. I believe the government pressure was wrong, and I regret that we were not more outspoken about it. I also think we made some choices that, with the benefit of hindsight and new information, we wouldn't make today. Okay, this may have been a good letter to send a few months ago before the Missouri versus Biden case was decided, because the court ruled the wrong way on that. And had they had this document to refer to, perhaps they would have realized, hey, here it is straight from the horse's mouth. They felt coerced. They felt pressure. Now, Zuckerberg obviously puts as the caveat, we own our decisions. well, you own your decisions as long as the boot is up here. When the boot comes down here, at that point, who owns the decision, right? Who has the power in that situation, right? As rich as Mark Zuckerberg is, the government wants to get like France did, you know, it's a different story, right?
Well,
this could have been useful a few months ago. This is a little bit late.
Yeah, that's what the original judge's ruling was, to say that he made the mafia comparison. Yeah, it's a nice store. Be ashamed if something happened to it. That's exactly what they did. Yeah, you got a nice platform there.
Right.
Be ashamed if you got hit with 50 subpoenas.
Right.
And you really can't run the business because we have you so tied up with lawfare that you can't see straight.
Exactly. Like I said to our teams at the time, I feel strongly that we should not compromise our content standards due to pressure from any administration in either direction, and we're ready to push back if something like this happens again. Oh, that's good to know. In a separate situation, the FBI warned us about a potential Russian disinformation operation about the Biden family and Burisma in the lead up to the 2020 election. That fall, when we saw a New York Post story reporting on corruption allegations involving then Democratic nominee Joe Biden's family, we sent that story to fact checkers for review and temporarily demoted it while waiting for a reply. It's since been made clear that the reporting was not Russian disinformation, and in retrospect, we shouldn't have demoted the story. We've changed our policies. Convenient, once again, very convenient timeline. We've changed our policies and processes to make sure this doesn't happen again. For instance, we no longer temporarily demote things in the U.S. while waiting for fact checkers. Oh, well, that's a nice change. Apart from content moderation, sorry for the blurred image, that was on X. That's not our issue. Apart from the content moderation, I want to address the contributions I made during the last presidential cycle to support electoral infrastructure. The idea here was to make sure local election jurisdictions across the country had the resources they needed to help people vote safely during a pandemic. I made these contributions through the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative. They were designed to be nonpartisan, spread across urban, rural, and suburban communities. Still, despite the analyses I've seen showing otherwise, I know that some people believe this work benefited one party over the other. My goal is to be neutral and not play a role one way or another, or to even appear to be playing a role. So I don't plan on making a similar contribution this cycle. Respectfully, Mark Zuckerberg. So that would have been.
I think I smell the next Trump endorsement coming.
Yeah, right, exactly. He's on stage, imagine. Yeah, I mean, that is a pretty significant letter. Significant for the public record, significant to chew over on a podcast like ours. It's a shame that wasn't released a few months earlier, because now that Missouri v. Biden case is settled, this is just grist for the mill for podcasters. I mean, what are you really going to do about it? First of all, Meta, despite these promises, have been the most censorious of all of the Free Palestine content. I mean, they put out. We were gonna do this as a segment, and it just fell out of the lineup because there was no real man bites dog element to it, because we've come to expect this kind of censorship from Meta. But Sam Husseini posted a video of this woman on a subway in New York City,
right?
Just announcing there's a Free Palestine rally going on at X address at X time, like not hostile to anyone, not getting in anybody's face, just, hey, everybody, there's a rally going on over here. Facebook blocked that video. They blocked that video. And so they're the worst. They're the worst. Now, he comes out here and says, we're not going to be as susceptible to government pressure. Well, this is what I say, guys. Like, look, you're kind of screwed both ways here. If Kamala wins, there's going to be continued government pressure on these platforms. If Trump wins, these platforms are going to take it upon themselves to censor more. That's why Alex Jones got thrown out. Don't forget, when Alex Jones got kicked off of all these platforms, Trump was president. That's why the companies took it upon themselves to deplatform him, because Trump had won. So you're kind of screwed either way here. There's either going to be government coercion, or the platforms are going to be so horrified by the election outcome that they're probably going to do it themselves. And one more time, hate to keep beating up on Trump here, because I want to keep in the good graces of our MAGA friends, but where was he when this was going on? Where was he when this was going on? Right? I mean, why didn't he crack down on this as president? Why didn't
Right.
he use the power of the executive to say, no, 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 no. You're not going to act in this extra constitutional manner here. There's going to be a standard. The government is going to impose a standard that is in accordance with the constitutional framework under which our government operates. Like, that's what it's going to take, because if Kamala wins, you're just going to have more of exactly what we just laid out. If Trump wins, these platforms are going to take it on themselves to police speech. And it's going to require a government response to that. Otherwise, they're going to get away with it just like they got away with it while Trump was president, up to and including his deplatforming after January 6th.
I do not take as dim a view as you do. Here's some comfort for our MAGA friends. I think if Trump wins, because clearly platforms like X and Rumble are going to be free to go their merry way, I think we can safely assume. Yeah, I mean, maybe the more YouTube platforms will feel that way, but I don't even know about that, because they're going to face so much competitive pressure from the free speech platforms, which are going to become increasingly popular. I think they're going to continue to gain a market share. And in the end, these are businesses. It's not that really YouTube gives a shit. I am pretty sure for most of the people at YouTube, if you just let them do what they wanted, they'd go back to the Wild West YouTube. They would go back to letting just whoever's getting engagement decide. They would just go back to that. So it's not that they really want to do that. If you have an administration that is encouraging free speech platforms, plus you have free speech platforms like X and Rumble increasingly eating their lunch, I don't know that the result is that they double down on self-censorship.
Well, this is where you run into the other question of the new economy versus the old economy, right? I mean, the old economy is schmata, right? We, get as much engagement, sell as much advertising, move as much product, right? In the economy of ESG scores and things like that, sometimes it can be more profitable in the long run to stay in the good graces of the powers that be than it is to, move more product over a shorter window of time. And now if Trump wins, you could say, well, the powers that be are more sympathetic to you. That pendulum swings pretty quickly if past is prologue. And so there's still going to be, I think, pressure to conform to, broadly speaking, if we want to say the Davos people, the World Economic Forum people, right? There's going to be pressure in that way. And so, look, whether I'm right or you're right, the solution remains the same, which is support free speech media infrastructure. Right? I mean, it's very important that we do that. This is why we've been doing that for the last year or so, right?
And that is why we are introducing 1775 coffee enemas.
Yeah, right, exactly.
For a limited time.
Exactly.
Works in both ends, folks.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. No, I mean, look, it's hugely important. It's hugely important. Look, we suspect that the Uhuru content is suppressed on YouTube. Yes. There's a lot of stuff that, I mean, certainly the Julian Assange
where
stuff.
The view counts don't make sense.
Yeah, certainly the Julian Assange stuff. We know that for a fact.
Big time.
That is absolutely true. And so, yeah, man, look, this is the new online world. To have Zuckerberg come out and say that was basically what the Twitter files discovered, Volume 1. About Dorsey's Twitter and the suppression of the Hunter Biden laptop story. There you have it. The CEO just coming out and volunteering that information.
Yep.
All right, cool. Let's read some super chats. We got one more segment for you, folks. It's a kind of a short one and a fun one. Peter Monahan, thanks for the $10. Going in for my chemo today. It's going to be a hard week next week, but I'll be able to watch you guys to make it easier. Have a good weekend. See you guys on the other side. Please clap. Please clap for Peter Monahan. God bless you and good luck.
Good luck
in there. And we hope that we hope we get it right for you. We hope we keep you entertained for sure. But yes, best of luck to you, my friend. Hashcat, thanks for looks like the $5. Most probably it's an attempt to recover the ultimate fall of the platform. He's still not telling the full truth. You mean the Telegram guy? Barry91, thanks for the $10. Zuckerberg just covering bases if Trump wins. MAGA friend here, still nothing but love. You guys are one of the few I watch regularly. Thank you, Barry. Appreciate that very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate that very much. Okay, let's go here to $1 Million Trooper, Tulsi Gabbard, and I suppose the Tulsi fans and incels Venn diagram probably overlaps pretty heavily. Yeah, I would imagine so. Thank you for that. Blank State, never forget the anarchist martyrs of Haymarket in Chicago, 1886, rallying for basic human rights in the workplace. I don't know if I could say that on YouTube, but cops charged in, we'll say. Incited a riot, several killed, and 8 anarchists sentenced to hang. Thank you for that. Appreciate that. Nocturnal Human, we hear August in the background. Free nappy time. There you go. Yeah, he's been having some trouble. I think he's having some gas. I think his stomach's been bothering him a little bit lately. Okay, let's go to our final story, right? Looks like we have just one more to go here. So let's make that happen. Here, let's do a Chuck Norris video ad first. How will we do that? It's either that or a health video. I don't want to do a health video. I want to do a Chuck Norris video. What do you think?
All right, sure.
All right, let's do it. He could use the boost. Hey, have you ever wondered what happened to the legendary Chuck Norris? I have. I think about him from time to time. Well, I saw a video that he made recently, and I was shocked. He's in his 80s. That's right. He is in his 80s and still kicking butt and working out and staying active. What's even more shocking is he's stronger, can work out longer, and even has plenty of energy left over for his grandkids. He did this by just making one change. He says he still feels like he's in his 50s. His wife even started doing this one thing too, and she's never felt better. She says she feels... That's right. She says she feels 10 years younger. Her body looks leaner, and she has energy all day. Chuck made a special video that explains everything. Make sure you watch it by going to chuckdefense.com/studio or by clicking in the link below the video. It'll change the way you think about your health. So once again, that's chuckdefense.com/studio and click on the link in the description below to watch this video. Free to watch. Get to see Chuck Norris in his 80s. He hasn't been in a movie in a while. So even if for no other reason, check it out. It's free. That's chuckdefense.com/studio. And I assume those QR codes take you right there as well if you scan it on your phone for those watching on the cell phone. All right, folks, those
missing in action movies were awesome.
Yeah.
That was some of the best mindless jingoism to be found at the multiplex.
Yeah, I don't, man. What was the last Chuck Norris movie I saw? You're going back a long time.
Yeah, I mean he's basically retired, right?
I think so. Yeah, but he's staying healthy. As we know. All right, folks. One more piece. This is a kind of short, trivial piece, but this is indicative of a certain virtue signaling liberal class cohort represented by West Wing star Bradley Whitford. So West Wing star gets personal.
This guy's a dick, man.
Yeah. Yes, in Cheryl Hines' takedown. Actor Bradley Whitford, known for his performance in The West Wing, pulled no punches on X as he tore into Cheryl Hines and her husband, RFK Jr., on Saturday. Whitford, 64, called out Hines' silence following her husband's failed presidential run and endorsement of former President Donald Trump. So this is the tweets over some remarks that Trump made about Roe versus Wade. I tried to play that for you, but the volume was so low you could really not even understand what Trump was saying, so I don't even know why he would link to that video. But he says, hey, Cheryl Hines, way to stay silent while your lunatic husband throws his support behind the adjudicated rapist who brags about stripping women of their fundamental rights. Gutsy. Great example for the kids. Profile. Encourage. I'm sure he spoke out about the numerous alleged sex crimes of Bill Clinton during the 2016 campaign. And I'm sure if he didn't, he would expect his colleagues to hound him for it on social media every day that he didn't speak out about that.
Oh, yeah. No, there was a whole tweet storm when Bill Clinton was just recently, or as we like to call him, credibly accused of rape figure Bill Clinton was giving a speech at the DNC.
Yes.
Whitford must have been freaking out.
Yeah.
Must have been all over that. And what are you doing on Elon's platform? What are you doing? I thought Elon is a threat to the republic.
You know, if you were not around during the golden age of the West Wing and their multi-season run on TV, extraordinarily popular show, you may recognize this guy as basically the real-life version of himself. He was the father in Get Out, which was all about the sort of unmasking of these PMC white liberal virtue signalers. Like, it was basically, that was what I thought was kind of ironic about, and I was kind of surprised he took the role. Like, when you were reading that Get Out script, don't you realize this movie is pretty much about you? Like, like you basically are a cartoonish, like this character is basically a cartoonish over the top version of you in real life.
Right. But but that's what made it perfect casting, because a guy like this would never realize. He thinks he's commenting on people like that.
Right. The people like that never realize they are the person who's at the butt of the joke. Yes, that's true. Hines has previously said that she did not think her marriage would survive if RFK Jr. endorsed Trump. Then on Friday, Hines posted an ill-received note on X following RFK Jr.'s endorsement. Now, keep in mind, this is the Daily Beast. So, in reality, the note was not ill-received. We'll get to that in a second. But here is the video that they link to when they make the claim that she says their marriage would not survive. Now, that's not explicitly stated in this video, which means I don't know why they linked to this. But she does kind of hint that he would be in the doghouse if he actually went full bore and endorsed Trump.
Asked whether you would accept. You had been asked whether you would accept a position on the ticket if Trump asked you, and I think your response was, that would be devastating to my marriage.
I think Bobby knows me very well.
Okay.
I think that's the
answer.
That's also why he's not saying anything right now.
I think that's your answer.
All right. Well, the statement that she made, the decision has been made to suspend my husband's, Robert Kennedy Jr.'s presidency, meaning presidential campaign, not presidency, but whatever. And I'd like to extend a sincere, deeply heartfelt thank you to every person who has worked so tirelessly and lovingly on his campaign. They have accomplished feats that were said to be impossible. They have gathered over 1 million signatures, more than any candidate in history. I'm assuming she means third-party candidate in history. Once again, this is, she is an actress. This is in her wheelhouse. And have achieved ballot access across the country despite the roadblocks and lawsuits that have been brought against them for the sole purpose of keeping Bobby off of the ballots so no one would even have the opportunity to vote for him. I deeply respect the decision Bobby made to run on the principle of unity. Over the last year and a half, I have met some extraordinary people from all parties, Democrats, Republicans, and independents. It's been my experience that the vast majority of all parties are truly good people who want the best for our country and for each other. It has been an eye-opening, transformative, and endearing journey. 12.5 million views. Notice, despite the Daily Beast's claim that this was ill-received, those of you who are veterans of the X platform know that that is a pretty well-received post. 117,000 likes to only 19,000 comments. That's not even close to a ratio. That's a positively received post. When your like-to-comment ratio is, north of 3, that's a pretty well-received post. So, no, despite the editorial bent of the Daily Beast and the wishes of Bradley Whitford, this was not. She did not get a devastating backlash.
Well, she got a devastating backlash from the people who mattered to the people at the Daily Beast.
Right, but that's
people
very
like Bradley
few people.
Whitford.
Yeah, very, very few people. Bradley Whitford quote tweeted her, or no, she didn't even quote tweet her. He quote tweeted the Kamala's Wins account and decided to tag her and go after her. But overall, the response was not bad. It was not a bad response on X to him doing that, or to her saying, thank you to the supporters. Now, what's going on at the Kennedy household there, that's their business. But yeah, just what a meddling little sniveling bastard of a guy. I mean, and this is who the libs are. It's all about, are you with us or are you against us?
Yep.
That's it.
Yep.
That's it. It'd be one thing if she made a statement like, look, if she comes out on Twitter and she endorses Donald Trump, then, whatever. That's fair game. You want to make an endorsement, you deal with people coming back at you. But to go out of your way and say, hey, where's your statement condemning your husband? I like to think of politics like the mafia and like families are off limits. That's generally what we do. Like during the Obama years, did people go after Michelle? Not unless she made a statement. Like if she comes out and says something, you do it.
Some did.
Some did,
really,
but
and
generally,
in really disgusting ways.
Generally, you basically lay off family. Melania, Michelle, First Lady, unless they make a statement. Certainly the kids of the candidate.
I mean
right?
Michelle, aside from, there were some very racist attacks made on Michelle. And
no, but I'm talking about.
I want to acknowledge that. But she has made herself a political figure.
Right.
And that's fair game. You're going to go on stage with your freaking, 4 mansions, 5 mansions, and talk about how daddy didn't trust rich people. I mean, that's fair game.
Like
that's
dipshits
fair.
online are gonna say, bad shit about people. But when I talk about were our first ladies generally, fair game. Like during the 2008 campaign, even Sean Hannity would speak highly of the first family. He would say, nothing against Michelle or any of the kids or anything like that. And so you're always going to have yahoos who talk that shit. But generally speaking, like the blue check crowd, you don't inject someone's wife into a debate for nothing.
She's one of them. Well, that's why.
Yeah.
She's one of them.
Yeah.
Like if he were just married to an anonymous woman, he wouldn't be calling her out.
Right.
This is a defection from one of their own.
That's right.
This is
That's
Hollywood.
Right. She's Hollywood.
Supposed to be of one opinion. And it's that Trump is Hitler, and we have the God-given right to dictate our morals to the rest of the country because our morals are the good morals.
Right. Exactly. And so he took the opportunity to try and drag her into a flame war there, not realizing he is the real life version of the Get Out character that he actually played. Hey, I'd vote for Obama a third. They literally gave him that line. Hey, I'd vote for Obama a third time if I could. Right? That's exactly him. That's exactly the kind of guy he is in real life. And yet he played that role pretty well.
There was some stiff competition for this crown. In the White Dudes for Kamala stream, his might have been the cringiest.
Oh, that's right.
moment.
He was on that. Yeah.
Oh, yes, there are so many white dudes out there. It's like a sea of beige.
I forgot you actually watched that whole thing. I didn't, because that was when I was on leave.
I didn't do the whole thing.
I actually timed my paternity leave pretty well because I got to skip the Venezuela coup and the White Dudes for Kamala call. Yeah.
With Cheryl Hines, I am very curious what's going on there. What is going on there? Is it the whole Kennedy mystique that she's into? She likes rubbing elbows. I mean, I can't imagine most of the family associates with them at this point. Is he that charm? Is she just charmed by the occasional decapitated whale head he brings home? Like, does she find that endearing, and the falconry and the bears and the dogs or whatever the fuck animal carcass he drags home that week? Does she have a fetish? Like, what is up with that marriage? I mean, because and this happened gradually over time, that she got put in a position where she could have her husband or her career in Hollywood, but she couldn't have both. It's not like she had to make that choice up front. At the time when they got married, he still would have been a Democratic royalty in good standing. And now she's put in a position where she'll never work in that town again unless she gets hired by the Daily Wire.
Oh yeah, no, her career is done. I mean, even I can't imagine her relationship with Larry David hasn't strained over this. Not that they have to work together anymore because Curb is done, but I mean, he's a massive lib. And he was actually, I mean, there's lots of pictures of him and RFK together because they have a mutual friend, right? Obviously. But it is going to be tough to cast her in anything, any sort of big Hollywood movie anytime soon. Yeah, she is blacklisted for sure. That's over.
That's done.
That's over.
Her only hope is Ben Shapiro,
which is another thing that's another thing that made his tweet so sleazy. It's like, look, her career is over. Like, it's over. Like, what are you worried she's going to take a role from your wife? Nobody's going to cast her in anything anymore. None. Why do you have to pile on? We have to say, hey, where are you condemning this? You know? Yeah. Pretty dickish.
On the bright side, Hollywood, all of their careers are over. They just haven't figured it out yet.
That's right. That's right. All right. Let's take a few more Rumble rants. We got a few more super chats, and then we are closing the lights on this stream, and we will be back for members at 8 p.m. Got a pretty banging member stream tonight. Telegram is where you go to meet fake Keaton to get booked on Due Dissonance. Yeah, somebody set up an account and was like booking guests on our behalf on Telegram. So I joined, and I reported it, and apparently that's not a thing anymore. So my experience with that platform was brief but positive. Next, Bradley Whitford is going to demand Cheryl Hines testify against her husband in court. Go fuck yourself. Thanks, $1 Million Trooper. Hey, we met $1 Million Trooper on the streets of Chicago.
Oh yeah, we did.
Guys
we
we
did.
saw out there.
Yeah, couple times.
That's right. Barry91, thanks for the $10. Zuckerberg just covering bases if Trump wins. MAGA friend here, still nothing but love. Oh, we read that one already. But thank you again, Barry. Okay, here's the newest one. Bradley Whitford says Brendan McNamara for $5. Thank you. Was also Eric, the sniveling corporate weasel who is the bad guy in Billy Madison. Probably a more apt comparison than West Wing role. I don't even know who he played in The West Wing. I never watched The West Wing. Did you ever watch The West Wing? You would have been right in your like peak lib era at the time that show was on.
West Wing?
Yeah.
You know what? I was never that libby.
Okay.
I was never that libby. Like that shit had a tone to it that was just so gross.
Yeah.
It never appealed to me, man. It was too rich white people. Like it was just too much that. I had a viscerally negative reaction to it even then. Which I get if you were a novelist, you'd call that foreshadowing in terms of my future political trajectory.
Yes. Good call. All right, folks. Well, that is our program. We appreciate you being here very much. Please go and sign up at patreon.com/DueDissidents, DueDissidents.substack.com, or DueDissidents.locals.com, and join us tonight at 8 p.m. Those emails are going to be going out momentarily after the conclusion of this show, which is right now. We will be back on Thursday. Different time on Thursday. My kids' kindergarten orientation is in the morning, so we are going to be on in the afternoon on Thursday. So no morning show on Thursday, but we will be on at 1 p.m. Eastern. So we're on at a special time this Thursday. Mark your calendar. Join our Substack. That's a newsletter you can join for free. So even if you don't join as a paid member, you still get the newsletter, so you know when and where we are going to be live in case there is a one-off schedule change like there will be this Thursday. Hit that subscribe button over on YouTube. Hit that follow button over on Rumble. Very important. Make sure you follow us on as many platforms as you can keep track of. And we will see patrons tonight. Everyone else will see you Thursday afternoon at 1 p.m. Until we see you again, thanks for this afternoon. Be safe and be well.
Courage.
Please clap.